like, comment, share, subscribe. Thanks for watching. All right, y'all. I'm back with another flashback. This video actually features Aaron, aka True, and Kendra, aka Sheba. I'm currently working on re-uploading all of my content back onto YouTube, adding my commentary so that I can meet the YouTube guidelines. Guys, be sure to drop me a comment, smash that like button, and share this video. I'm trying to ensure that all of my content gets back into the suggested videos on YouTube. Thank you in advance for your support.
Boy, recommend that you start looking at childhood traumas and start looking at mental health, because it means that something's wrong with them. But it's okay to have something wrong with you if you're working on fixing it. It's not okay to have something wrong with you and then continuously act like it's not even there. I'm late. I know I'm late.
Okay guys, just wanted to let you guys know this video is part 1 of 3.
So that was the main point I wanted to talk about as far as my recent introduction to what has been going on with R. Kelly and the amount of damage that he's done. And if anybody has any questions about anything, let me know, because I feel like your questions assist my process in healing. And a lot of people, I keep saying a lot of people, that's the thing. Some people won't be able to heal because they won't accept that they need to. There's this corner of the internet of people who have taken their childhood traumas and their ability to survive and transformed it into a false sense of strength and resilience. It's hard for some of us to say we need to heal, because that would also require you to admit that you've been hurt or that you're wounded.
Once Aaron left the cult, he just, as far as his communication, it improved greatly, guys. And he's glitching right now, so I just figured I'd come in and fill this spot.
Saying that I need to heal, because people who refuse to heal move forward and continue to hurt others. Did you just sit quietly when you got home? Oh, no. When I got home, the first thing I started doing was immersing myself into understanding cults. That's what I did. I immediately started immersing myself into trying to understand what in the world just happened.
And y'all know it must be mind-boggling to him, because he was actually in carbonation. He was there for 4 years. So his mind is like, really, what in the hell just happened?
And I'm listening to people's stories, and you can't deny, you might be able to say, okay, I can see that. There's a difference, but there's a huge difference between coincidences and patterns. There's people, psychologists, who study the behaviors of people all day, every day. And I find it highly unlikely that the patterns they're describing accidentally corresponded with what we were doing and what I experienced. It's no accident. That was a good question, though. And I also, you look healthy. I'm proud of you and Kendra. Thank you.
Y'all saw my comment I typed in the chat, right? I asked him when will they live together, him and Kendra. And he never really gets around to answering the question. But I believe that they are living together now. I don't have confirmation on it, but I believe that they are.
I understand why people take so long to say certain things, because they're afraid of the backlash. They're afraid of people saying you're a liar. Some of those women on Survivor, R. Kelly, got death threats. One of the guy's daughters, R. Kelly's brother, his daughter got jumped for defending her father. What do you think about the Willie Lynch letter now? New perspective. I think that the Willie Lynch letter, just like the Bible, in the wrong hands, it can be utilized to promote an equally sinister agenda. I don't think that in order to heal people, you gotta beat them. I don't think beating people heals people. I don't think you can beat people back into their right mind. That doesn't make any sense. That the cult leader used the Willie Lynch letter to justify his own abusive nature. The Willie Lynch letter was used to justify abuse. Simple. Appreciate that, Jackie. Good question, Candy. And even my own, even I felt my own doubt of thinking people would think that I'm doing this for clout and attention. But you can't, your life will be, your growth and development and your healing will be stunted if what you need to do and what you feel like you need to do and say is blocked by what other people are going to think. And I know everybody's not going to understand. I know people are going to say, you know, oh, you did this and you did that, but it's all good. People's level of empathy only extends to the degree of what they have experienced themselves. So I don't expect everybody to display empathy. That's my role as a leader. As a leader, you have to be willing to do the things that you see other people aren't willing to do. And I also seen a post talking about how you should not allow your empathy to compromise your ability to set boundaries. So I'm not going to argue with nobody. I'm not going to go back and forth with nobody. If I feel like somebody is being disrespectful, then I could just simply remove them. How do you feel being referred to as one of his kids? Used to promote our sense of inferiority to him. And when you feel inferior to someone, then you typically allow yourself to be treated according with that feeling. Yeah, I did 22 Ladybug. I felt like I couldn't go to college. I felt like I couldn't work a 9-to-5. And I had just left the military, and you just can't go right back into the military. So I felt like, and I had been out there for a number of years and done and said a lot of things. So I felt like I had reached a point of no return. And so I just stayed with it. When do you think things took a turn with the cult leader? I don't think things took a turn. After watching Surviving R. Kelly was always like that. The cult leader was always like that. If you haven't seen Surviving R. Kelly, they have clinical psychologists during the documentary that give information to help us understand why people do the things they do and why certain people behave in a certain type of way. One of the things about people who are manipulative, they don't just come out and do something outlandish. It's a gradual testing to see how far they can go with you, and before you know it, you found yourself in a very inappropriate, disrespectful relationship, and you've been in it for so long that you normalize it. And to people who haven't experienced anything like that, they think that it's ridiculous. Just like I used to think that women who were in abusive relationship, I thought it was just as simple. I used to say, that's stupid. Why don't you just leave? But the abuse has become normalized in their mind, and they feel like the relationship that they have, this is another main factor in tolerating abuse, is that the person that is abusing you, you consider this to be the most important relationship, which further promotes you to tolerate the behavior. Yeah, Stockholm Syndrome. Stockholm Syndrome is a real thing. As much as I talked about it, I didn't even recognize that I had succumbed to it. Stockholm Syndrome is real. And when you hear these things from the perspective of never experiencing it, you think that it's absolutely ridiculous. How could somebody develop this type of relationship with a person and continue to tolerate it? It's a gradual process. It's not an instantaneous thing. Right, exactly, Diana. It's a progressive thing. It's a very subtle progressive thing. Thank y'all for participating, because answering these questions is allowing me to examine my own mind and be able to give honest answers, because I was reading from a script for so many years that I've been disconnected from my own self, and I'm recalibrating myself back into that, and I'm giving myself time, and I am understanding that it didn't happen overnight, and it's not going to be able to be fixed overnight. So appreciate y'all asking the questions. That's a good statement, Cara. I also recently just found out that it takes victims or survivors 7 attempts to leave the abuser. It takes 7 times on average. And see, Diana, your ability to understand comes from a personal experience that you can use to connect to what I'm saying. So I don't expect people who don't have a personal experience to be able to understand what I'm saying. And that's fine. I can live with being misunderstood. I can live with people thinking I'm lying, or I'm doing this because I'm facing some type of criminal charges myself. I'm fine with all that comes with it, because what I can control is what I focus on, and what I can't control, I just have to let that be what it is. But I no longer have to tolerate disrespect. I don't have to tolerate abuse. I don't have to tolerate any of that. Thank you, Karen, for being here. Thank you for making that statement. I appreciate that, Kara, because what I want people to do is let go of the characters that we try to play and the images we try to uphold, and connect back to that authentic part of yourself, because you need it. When we think about neglect, the first person who neglected us was ourselves. We neglected ourselves, and then we normalized that neglect, and then we allowed other people to do it to us. Do you think humans are designed to be programmed? No. I think that humans are designed to be in an environment that promotes their interests and their most authentic self. I don't think people need to be programmed. I think they need to be given a space where they can flourish just like any other seed. I think that the common parenting narrative is to get your child to do something and be something. What I'm realizing is that for some parents, the hardest thing for them to do is to actually let their child be who they are, rather than who they need them to be to confirm or validate their parenting skills. I'm completely okay with my son doing what he want to do, because the only thing I want him to be is happy, and I don't have a box in what I think that looks like. If you watch children, they know how to be happy. It's us that gets in the way and interferes with that natural progression. Do you regret any of the tattoos you have while you was under the cult? All of the tattoos that I have, I had them prior to joining the cult. The only tattoo that I got while I was in the cult is this small green heart that I did on myself. It's the first and only tattoo that I did on myself. But all my other tattoos, I had them prior to joining the cult. And I had a Jesus portrait on my chest, which I recently got covered up because I don't want that image on my body. So I got it covered up with a lion. Yeah, exactly, Diana. A lot of parents are living vicariously through their children, and they feel like their need to be justified as a parent based upon what their child does is an extension of an insecurity for their inability to meet what their parents wanted them to do, and the cycle continues. The only thing I need my son to be is him. Be you. I don't have no stipulations. I don't have no boundaries. You got to do X, Y, and Z to make me happy.
Now that is just amazing because, quite honestly, that's all you should want your children to be, is themselves authentically.
I do X, Y, and Z to make me happy. No. Because I know what that feels like. I know what it feels like to get the approval and disapproval from your family based upon your grades, based upon your job, based upon if you go to college or not. So I don't want to pass that along to my son. When we talk about generational curses, we think that we're breaking generational curses with trust funds. But you don't break generational curses with money. You break generational curses with mindsets. Now, I appreciate you, Ladybug. You said you think it was hard for you to accept RKW. That probably was a typo. When am I gonna talk about the cult leader? What I'm taking questions. No, I'm not mad at the cult leader because being angry is like drinking poison and expecting the other person to die. A group becomes a cult when they begin to do harmful acts. I want to get something from this guy who is expert on cults. I read. Okay. Appreciate that, Black Unc. Every time I watch a documentary or interview with people saying very difficult things, it inspires me to do the same thing, because I realize if you don't, you harbor those things and you could potentially become an abuser yourself. If you are hurt and you don't address that hurt, you can actually move forward and begin hurting other people. It is very difficult to talk about things that could potentially not be well received by others or dismissed by other people. And so I don't allow that to stop me from saying what needs to be said and addressing certain things that have went unaddressed for so long. I appreciate that, Denise. If you have any questions, the questions will help. The questions will help. I don't care what people are going to think about me. I have to do this, because carrying around a lie, it will destroy you. It will destroy you. I don't want nobody to follow me. I want people to follow their own heart and their own guidance. I think that a part of an abuser's success is convincing people that they are incapable of their own guidance. I don't want anybody to be dependent upon what I think, but rather listen to what they know for themselves is something they need to be happy. Appreciate that, Prosperity. Yeah, and that's another thing, Jackie. That's another thing, Jackie. Watch the people who, I'm so glad the people who were victims of R. Kelly did the interview, because they're helping me out and they don't know me. Okay, let's see. What's up, Ira? Do I think the cult leader has pedo behavior? I don't know. I don't know to what degree he's capable of going. Because there's been countless times where he's done things that were a shock to me. I didn't think we would take it that far, but we did. Had he not been arrested, how far we would have actually gone, I don't know, because that's a part of expressing power is to continuously push the barrier to see how powerful you are, because abusers feel empowered by doing things and getting away with them. So I don't know to what degree the cult leader was able to go. How am I regaining my self-confidence and love for self? Spending time with myself. Going back and looking at older videos. Going back in my mind to certain situations. And being able to express how I honestly feel rather than how I was instructed to think.
I, for one, am very happy to see Aaron out of the cult and expressing himself authentically without having to kind of maneuver through the script that Eligio Bishop, aka Nature Boy, aka Three God, gave them.
Regaining my self-confidence is trusting what I think rather than always questioning it and waiting on the confirmation from somebody else to tell me whether or not it should be a thought I should be having. I don't think I think that we wanted it to work so bad that we allowed certain things to happen and to be done and said to us, hoping that one day it would all make sense. And I think that we relinquished that control because we wanted to really believe in what we was doing. But what we wanted to believe and what was actually happening, you just can't ignore. You can only ignore it for so long. Do you ever have fear of going back to the cult if the cult leader got out today? No. I would never have any type of relationship with that person ever again. Ever. Ever. Ever again. Ever again in my life. Ever. Ever. Did you have to experience any of the abuse done to the women? And if so, how do you feel about it now? Yeah, I experienced it. I seen people get hit. I seen people get their head stepped on. I seen people get slapped. I've seen people get humiliated in front of the group, having to lay on their face. How do I feel about it now? I don't feel like nobody deserves that. I feel like people have the capacity when they feel like they're in a safe environment to change their behavior simply by being taught to. Did he ever physically abuse any of the men? I guess no, I don't. I guess if you count, I think he slapped Juju. He slapped me, but it was light. It wasn't like a big slap. It was a light. It was almost like he wasn't trying to do it. I guess you can count that as physical abuse. I don't think nobody should be putting their hands on nobody. Did he sexually assault the men? Not that I know of. I never seen that. I never seen that. Nobody never brought that to my attention. And I don't even think people understand how challenging this is, because I defended the cult leader heavily. And so to say these things is very challenging.
I'm sure that many of you remember that Aaron, aka True, was at one point the last man standing. Even after Nature Boy was incarcerated, he still stuck around. I think it was for 6 or 7 months.
It's very challenging. Not just about, what people may think, but also going against momentum that I've built up and a behavior pattern that I've built up in myself. It's almost like I'm going against a old habit. What would have happened if you or Juju hit him back? Yeah, that we would have definitely got jumped. We would have definitely got jumped. Wow, your my brother-in-law's stepmom's sister died in Heaven's Gate out in San Diego. Dang. How do you feel when he compared carbonation to the military? It's not the same. I was in the military for 8 years. We was using comparisons to justify abusive behavior. The military is not abuse. The military is training. You eat 3 times a day in the military. You sleep in the military. You have days off in the military. There's nobody you praise and worship in the military. Your commander is there as a person who's been in the military longer than you, who's giving you instructions for the betterment of the army as a whole rather than for themselves. I didn't have to worship my captain. I didn't have to worship my commander. So the comparison of carbonation to the military was just justification to further make our abusive patterns understandable and digestible to others. No, it was never positive, Alex. The first day I got there, I seen him hit Velvet. The very first day I got there. Very first day. It's a lot of questions. I didn't think that him saying he went to prison was a lie. I don't know if he went to prison or not. But I didn't think to doubt it. No, I don't desire to live in the tropics. I don't desire to continue any purpose that's connected to the cult. It doesn't matter where you go if you don't have the right people around you. We were in the so-called best environment with the best oxygen, best sunlight, best food, and highest understanding, and Malia was losing weight. She was getting sick. And we justified it and excused it with her and her inability to face her demons. If you're around toxic people, it don't matter where you go. It don't matter what your background looked like. A part of it, I believe now that going to the tropics was a part of his ability to lure people in. As much as the cult leader tried to make it seem like he wasn't recruiting people, the tropical environments and the beach and the houses and the environments were a part of the allure. It was a part of the allure. It was a part of our false presentation. What's the wildest thing you've seen with your own eyes? The cult leader getting his dick... Oh, excuse me. The cult leader getting his penis sucked by a transsexual.
Do y'all remember that? That was when they were on Bigo. He invited that transsexual over and said that he was, well, she, I'm sorry, let me use the right pronouns. She was the new queen of carbonation. And they also did engage in sexual activity with her.
By a transsexual. The wildest thing I ever seen. That was wild. That was wild. That was wild. Oh, and when he started beating F-Ru out of nowhere, that was wild too. Cause I'm looking at it like, whoa. And she didn't even do anything. That and him beating F-Ru was probably the wildest thing I ever seen. Cause I'd never seen nobody get beat like a man beating a woman for no reason. She didn't even do anything. How would you feel when he would disrespect your wife or child? Like in the moment, I would be upset. And then I would quickly try to disconnect from it because I was in a state of thinking that my feelings were wrong. So I would quickly do whatever I could in my own mind to disconnect from it as fast as I could and stay focused on the mission. So I had to disconnect from my own wife and my own child to even stay there. Well, I'm just taking questions because after I'm watching different interviews, I realize that it's very hard for people to talk about these things, but it's necessary. I know people might think I'm doing this for clout, but I don't care about clout. I have to tell the truth for my own self because I've been living a lie for so long. What was the mission? To do whatever he wanted you to do. There was no mission. The cult leader wanted to feel powerful because that's something he's never felt in his whole life. Once he found a group of people who were naive enough to do whatever he wanted them to do, then he just kept pushing the degree just to experience having people who would do anything and everything. There was no actual mission other than the cult leader living out his power fantasies. That was the mission. Yeah, I watched Ruthless, but we were later instructed to stop watching it. Um, Jayon's baby, it wasn't sacrificed or anything like that. What I do know is that the most disturbing things as it pertains to Jayon's story, and I'm not, like I said, I'm not gonna speak for anybody. I can only share what I have experienced. Um, the most disturbing things as it pertains to Jayon's story is I seen her be forced to drink while she was pregnant, and the cult leader would have never done that to his own pregnant wife had it been his children. I didn't see it with my own eyes, but I was told that the cult leader had sex with Jayon while she was pregnant, which is that doesn't make any sense. That doesn't make any sense. Did you sense a change when you moved back to Georgia? I don't think I sensed the change. I think I just had to accept what I've always known. It's like you can only excuse somebody's behavior for so long until you realize that this is actually who they are. A part of the reason why we would excuse the cult leader's behavior is because, we felt like we were working on generational curses. And so we would say, well, he's working on his generational curses too. So how can we say anything bad about him? But when somebody's working on something, you see a change in their behavior. The cult leader did show a change in his behavior, but it escalated for the worse. And so we had to accept that this person wasn't trying to work on themselves. And if they were working on themselves, we could no longer be a part of it because him working on himself was also to our detriment.
Y'all, I am so happy that Aaron, aka True, gained so much clarity on the situation that he was in, because I was worried about him for a little bit there. Like, closer to the end when Nature Boy first went to jail, Aaron was going hard. He was getting on the internet every day, proclaiming Eligio Bishop, aka Nature Boy, aka Three Gods Innocence, teaching the knowledge, proclaiming the kingdom. He was going off, y'all. Y'all remember?
Did any of y'all talk about his behavior when he wasn't around? No, because people were afraid to get reported. We were afraid to get reported. I think it was an unspoken thing. We knew how much fun we had with each other when he wasn't around. It was an unspoken thing. Do you have love for the women still there you left behind? I feel sorry for them. I feel sorry for them. And I'm just waiting for them to finally accept what it is that they're doing and what has been happening. So I feel sorry for them. I didn't even think you could hear the rain sounds in the background. Yeah, it just started raining where I'm at, but it's okay. Oh, Diana, thank you for your research. Please send me that information. Please send me that information to my inbox, please. How do I feel about Solar and Velvet's relationship? I understand Solar and Velvet, and I want them to do whatever they need to do to heal and get their power back. I can't judge them. I can't say nothing about them. I refuse to do what I know was done to them for 4-5 years by the cult leader. I want them to do whatever they need to do to feel empowered and to heal, even if it don't look like something that I agree with or something that I choose to participate in. Who am I to tell you what you should look like, what you should do in order to heal? I'm not going to do that to them. Do whatever y'all need to do to heal. Did you feel any relief when he was initially arrested? Yeah. We noticed the drastic difference and the contrast between him being there and him not being there. And like I said, him not being there created an opportunity and a space for our own logic and reasoning to be reactivated, because we were under constant stimulation to the point where there was literally no time for us to think for ourselves. And when you don't have any time to think for yourself, you activate survival mode, and the only thing you want to do is eat and sleep. So we would do everything we had to do to make a day be as smooth as possible so that we could quickly get to eating, and we could quickly get to sleeping, and we could quickly get to any amount of time that was left in a day for us to have any type of peace. I realized that the cult leader had to create so much chaos because of the internal chaos within himself. He literally had an inability to be peaceful. Peace bothered him. It was almost as if he had to create some type of drama or disturbance, which I feel like is a byproduct of the drama and disturbance he grew up with as a child. I could be wrong. I'm not a psychologist. I'm not a therapist. This is just what I think, just from my own experience and my own little bit of research that I've done thus far. Why do the women stay after being used and abused? For various reasons. And it's up to them to confirm that reason. I can only speculate. They could potentially feel like they're afraid to face their parents. They're afraid to face people and what they're going to think about them. They're afraid that the cult leader might get out and come hunt them down. Who knows what the reason is? They may feel like they're going to be ridiculed and humiliated for going this hard and defending the cult leader for so long, only to say something otherwise and to the contrary. Was he scared when Malia was in the hospital? I don't know. I don't know. I don't think y'all understand how refreshing it is for me to say I don't know after trying to pretend like I had all the answers for a number of years. I don't know. And I know some of y'all in the position that you're in, you're thinking that these women might be, you know, that it's ridiculous that they stay there. How could they not see this? But I'm telling you, until you have actually experienced something of this caliber yourself, it's going to be almost impossible for you to understand how could they stay there and tolerate such behavior after having experienced it themselves, as well as seeing it be recorded in other instances involving other people. If he was to get out, do you think the followers will come back? No. I don't think they'll come back. I can only speak for myself. There's nothing to come back to. Did you say you were attracted to transsexuals to cape for him? I said it because I felt like it would create an uproar on the internet, and I really believe that you needed to create that type of traction on the internet to get people to pay attention to you, but you don't. There's plenty of people that are getting attention without saying controversial statements. I believe that you had to do I believe that the cult leader was saying those things just to create clout and attention, but I seen what he was doing off the camera, and that's who he was. That's who he was. He wasn't playing. What do I think happened to Loyal? I think he just, I don't know. I don't know. I can't even. Why? I no longer have a desire to formulate something to get you to believe I know what I'm talking about. And the funny thing about watching the women that are there, they're not good at convincing people. I was one of the best people at reciting the script and making the script believable. So watching them and me not being there, it just looks that much more comical. It looks that much more ridiculous with the cult leader having to rely on the remaining women to promote the mission. It looks ridiculous. The remaining women, and this is not an attack on their intelligence, but they're just not articulate. They're not gifted communicators. So with me not being there, it's almost as if it would be impossible for anybody to take what they're doing seriously. And the cult leader isn't the only person in the world who has the ability to speak well. I know the power because I've used it. I know the power of being able to speak well and how that can cause people to be convinced in what you're saying. But the cult leader's ability to speak well almost makes it believable. But I was there. I was there for 4 years. So I know what's going on.
Four years is a very long time. And I'm going to be honest with y'all. If I ever had went to carbonation, I would have been like Umi. Do y'all remember Umi? That's the member that came to them in Puerto Rico and hit dip, cussed Eligio out, and was not having it. She was not having it. I was so proud of her.
Yeah, you can tell they don't even want to be there. They don't want to be there. They don't even want to get on camera. They're not even connected to what they're saying. They're just reciting a script. They're trying to remember what he told them to say, just like I seen on Surviving R. Kelly. The girl said R. Kelly had them practice. And he told them good job after the interview. Same thing the cult leader did. You would be rewarded or punished contingent upon how well you made us look believable. No, we didn't think that having sex on camera was educational. At that point, with so much stimulation, You really just started tuning out and disconnecting what was going on around you just so you could get something to eat and go to sleep. Every day was like, I can't wait for this to be over. So you would, because you know that if you were to oppose the cult leader, you could be tortured with a 3-4 hour meeting, and it would only be a meeting designed for him to prove how he was right. So you just learned to avoid these meetings. You learned to avoid opposition and conflict, which conditions you to be agreeable. Agreeable. How can I get to solar noon as fast as possible? How can I get to sleep as fast as possible? Don't cause no trouble. Don't cause no conflict. Tuck away how you feel and just agree. Do you think the cult leaders study other manipulators out here before setting up Carbon Nation? Possibly. 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 Because I'm finding it just unbelievable, the similarities between Charles Manson, Jim Jones, R. Kelly, and even a video of how to make your own cult that was posted on YouTube 13 years ago. We were doing identical things. It'd have been one thing if I was able to point out, and also Warren Jeffs. It'd be one thing if I was able to point out 1 or 2 or 3 things in the video. But everything that video suggested was in alignment with exactly what we was doing. What's the longest a meeting could go on without food? Hours. Easy. A meeting could go on for hours. No, I'm telling you, Denise, after watching these interviews, I'm realizing, 1, how difficult it is for people to talk about these things, and 2, how necessary it is for people to really get an understanding that these people actually do exist, and that these types of things can happen to your son and your daughter, and even you, maybe not to the extent of being online or being in a full-fledged cult, but you can find yourself in a one-on-one relationship with somebody who is controlling, somebody who tries to make you second guess how you feel. It's not just about cults as much as it is about the behavior of somebody who's narcissistic beyond the ability to relate to other people's feelings. Do you think he was at his worst in Atlanta? I think he was always bad. But I think, just like with any substance abuse, your requirements and your needs begin to escalate. You start off with cigarettes, then you go to weed, then you go to Molly, then you go to X, then you go to crack, then you go to heroin, then you on crystal meth. I realized that the cult leader had an insatiable need for attention. And so when he realized that certain things weren't getting attention, like him teaching, for example, nobody was paying attention to it. So therefore, to supplement that need for attention, he had to do more and more and more absurd things. Almost as if he did not even consider the consequences of the things he was saying and showing, but rather he was consumed with the need to get the attention and maintain the attention of the people who were watching. Even in jail, He wanted to know how many people were in the room on Bigo. Was he doing anything other than weed in Atlanta? If he was, I didn't see it. I know he was consuming alcohol and smoking marijuana. Was Solar lacing? Was Courtney lacing the weed? I don't know. I don't know if Courtney was lacing the weed. Was lacing the marijuana. But if he was, I wouldn't be surprised.
Y'all, I don't know why they feel like Courtney is this, well, aka Solar, is this big time drug dealer. Where the hell would he find anything to lace the weed with? He had no money. He had no connections. Like, that was a dumb question.
Were the men allowed to buy things and go out? We had a go out team. Sometimes it was me and Courtney. Sometimes it was me and Dalen. Sometimes it was me and Giuliano. But for the most part, the men didn't do no type of shopping or going out to the extent that you've seen the women going out and shopping in Atlanta. Yeah, he thought it was untouchable prosperity, and that's another thing that I seen the members, the survivors of R. Kelly. They said R. Kelly felt he was untouchable when he wasn't convicted. Every time R. Kelly wasn't convicted and acquitted, he felt more and more untouchable. And the more untouchable people feel, the more ridiculous their behavior becomes. Their behavior escalates. Is it true that he preferred the men underweight, so he was the biggest? I think that sleep deprivation and food, is it food deprivation? I don't know. Malnutrition and food deprivation is also a part of making people more agreeable. Why did he keep jumping from God to God, religion to religion? The cult leader will do anything and everything to get you to believe what he wants you to believe at the particular time. In some type of way, it's for his own self-interest.
I absolutely agree with his response, because when Eligio Bishop, aka Nature Boy, aka Three God, got incarcerated this last time, he became Muslim out of nowhere. They were Muslim and praising Allah. It was strange. But I get it. He probably needed some protection in there. You know, the Muslim Brotherhood is heavy in prison, so he flocked to the religion and the people who could provide him with protection.
How do you think he learned how to get into people's head and play with their mind? I think on some level, everybody knows how to manipulate. Some people just don't have the ability to disconnect to how they would feel if that manipulation was done to them. Everybody knows how to manipulate. Some people just aren't connected to how their actions would feel if somebody did those same actions to them. So therefore, their manipulation has no limits. Of course, we might walk up to our mother and be like, please. That's manipulation in a sense. But that's not to the degree that somebody's being abused and hurt. It's manipulation to say, you know, there's different manipulation in itself does not have to be an inherently bad thing. It's only when your manipulation is without limits, meaning that your own self-interest and self-gain is the only thing that you consider. That's when it becomes an issue. It's a lot of questions. I don't know if he I don't think he was I don't know. Hold on, wait. It's a lot of questions. It's a lot of questions. It's a lot of questions. If I miss your question, then just try to retype it because some of the questions require a pretty decent amount of time to fully answer. What was his reason for leaving the tropics? I don't know. I don't know why he left the tropics and went back to Atlanta. Because there's what the cult leader tells you, and then there's what's actually going on. His capacity to lie. I accepted the request, babe.
All right, y'all. So Kendra's going to join the conversation.
Oh, hey.
Hey, did you try to come up here?
Yeah, but I don't want to be on the camera. So hold on, I think I can. Okay, there
Okay.
we go. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I get you just fine.
Okay, it's clear.
Yeah.
Okay, I just came up because there was a lot of questions, so I was like, if you need help answer the questions, I can help you because I know it's a lot.
No, I
And
think it would be great. I think it would be
sometimes, huh?
No, I would say I think it would be great for you to also be able to answer questions from angles that I may not have seen because I'm not going to sit up here and say this happened and I know this happened if I didn't see it. So there may be questions
Right.
that you may be able to confirm with your own, with your own experience, and that would be great as well.
Right, that's what I figured too. It's like there was a lot of things that the women were involved in that the men weren't. So it was
Eh,
like
yeah. And
yeah.
and also you need to well, I'm not gonna say you need to because you do whatever you feel like you need to do. I'll say that I think it would be helpful, especially after recently watching Surviving R. Kelly, how important it is to talk about what happened and how helpful it can be to other people who in their current position may feel like, oh, this could never happen to me, who may need to revert back to this if they ever find their daughter or their son in a similar situation.
Yeah, like the key I appreciate everybody. I appreciate everybody in here. I see you guys. I love you. Um I think that the main thing is to bring awareness. Like, I didn't even realize how, what kind of situation I was involved in until I started becoming more aware of other people who had been in similar situations. Um, you know, Watching Surviving R. Kelly, I've realized that I was literally no different from these women.
Right.
Like just very young, thinking that this guy was charming and this guy was one thing, and then next thing you know, you're in a situation you don't even know how you got there, and you're so deep into it, you're estranged from your family. It's like, where else are you going to turn? This became the most important relationship in my life, and I'm saying, like, people can't possibly understand that, because the most important relationship in most people's, well, in a lot of people's lives are, the relationship with their families, their biological families, their children, their mother, their father. How in the world does somebody you don't even know become the most important relationship in your life? But it's such a process that happens. It's amazing. I still, to this day, I mean, that's why I came up here, because it's still amazing to me that this happened to me.
Yeah,
Like, I just
yeah.
I don't even understand, like, what. But I saw that one question. Yeah, I see you, oh son, love. I seen your question, and I honestly, you're the reason why I came up here for your question. She said, why do you think the women stay? And I believe I believe that they believe that he is the most important person in their life. And they even said it. You can hear them say it. There's nothing else. There is nothing else. So
All right, y'all. So that was part one. Now we're going to get into part two.
moments with is actually your abuser. No, it's like, it's unbelievable. You know, even though that something didn't feel right and it wasn't natural, and that it wasn't right for him to stomp on your head, it wasn't right for him to just beat you up that day, some way in your mind you just rationalize it with, well, I should have done this, I should have done that, I should have never talked back, I should have never had an attitude, it was my fault in some way, and maybe I deserved that, but you don't deserve that. You don't you don't deserve that. you know I just I I think about them every day, and sometimes it makes me not want to say anything, because I know that they'll be like, oh, she's speaking out, and they'll want to cling tighter. But then I think about people that, they just don't understand why these women probably are still there. And it's important for me to bring awareness. It's not about, clout or, attention. I don't care about that. I don't care about that. My life, everybody has viewed it for the past 5 years. It's not about clout for me. If it was about clout for me, I would have, there's so many things I could have taken opportunities to do. But for me, it's about him. It's about justice. It's about him getting what he deserves. It's about seeing him get 30 plus years. I really want to see that day. That it's about that for me. It's about those women going to a place where they actually experience true love, and not thinking that this person that abuses them, it loves them. That's important to me. It's their well-being, them being able to just do stuff without having to ask permission.
I definitely understand where Kendra is coming from. She wants to see him get justice and, spend some time in solitude and incarcerated for all of his misdeeds, specifically the R word charge, the prohibition on nudity. Those are three charges, as well as the false imprisonment. So I get that, but I'm not really seeing a lot of rapid movement from the court. This thing could take some time for that to actually come into fruition. But I'm sure that Kendra, aka Sheba, and Aaron, aka True, are in it to see the results of what's going to occur with Eligio Bishop, aka Nature Boy, aka Three God. I mean, since they've canceled the pretrial on June 29th, there has been no further movement. The only thing that has been listed is like a miscellaneous claim. Looks like some type of financial claim against Eligio. So that's all that's been updated on the DeKalb County website.
Being able to see their families and how much their families love them truly, and that this person was just lying and saying that nobody loved them. Like, I want them to experience that real love that they haven't even experienced yet. you know, because it's a beautiful thing. And I know they think that he will haunt them and he will torture them, you know, somewhere in the afterlife, or, you know, that he will, he's very dark. He's very scary. And I remember being afraid that leaving, I would hear his voice everywhere. And I did for a while, but it goes away, you know, and I just want them to know that it goes away. You can rebuild your life. You can rebuild your life. They're so young. They're so young. Like, you can start over. I've done it. You know, I came here with nothing. Nothing. I left with nothing. I left with one outfit, you know, and a blanket. You know, I left with nothing in my child, but I gained the world because I got my family, you know. And it's like he took everything. He takes everything from you, every last thing. And you feel like he deserves it because you gave it to him. The wrong person. We were all so angry inside at the wrong one. It's not white supremacy. He's the slave master. He's the one whipping you. He did it. He's the one whipping you. He's the one forcing you on your face and telling you to say the black man is God. The white man is not doing that to you. It, it's just, he's going to get what he deserves. You know, he's going to get what he deserves. And I will be one to make sure of it. I will never let up on this. I would never victim shame or blame. You know, the victim, the alleged victim, to me, she's not an alleged victim. She's a victim. She's somebody that endured exactly what she said she endured. I don't care about what people have to say about her past or what she went through in her, or what she put out there online. She's a victim because she didn't want that. She didn't want to be beaten, slapped, or intimidated when she got there. She didn't even want to come there. She was coerced into coming back. He gets the women, especially Kayla, to bring other women in. I want her, bring her to me. Talking about nobody's recruited. No, he tells you who he wants, and he tells you to go talk to her, to convince her to come to me. So that victim was convinced to coming to that house and to staying there. She was already done with us. She was already done with him. She was lured back in by women. If that's not, does that sound like a sex cult? Like, why do you need women to lure other women in? You know, if you got it like that and women are just flocking to you, I don't need to R word no woman because women are flocking over me. But why you want them here so bad then? Why do you need to convince them to get here so bad? All of that flashiness and flaunting was all for women, to get women. But real women for real, like that got stuff going on for themselves, don't want him. He knows how to pick them. People that are unsure, they don't know what direction they're going. They don't know what's good for them yet. So, you know, he preys on that, just like any other abuser, any other manipulator. He was powerless as a child, so he decided to reverse that and inflict pain and suffering and sexual trauma on those who, in his eyes, are powerless. You know, and that's what we were. We were his slaves.
Now, I couldn't have been anybody's slave. I'm sorry. I could not have been anybody's servant. It just wouldn't have worked for me. I understand, you know, where Kendra, aka Sheba, and Aaron, aka True, came from. You know, they were coming from a loving space. They truly thought that they were joining a group of people with like minds, you know, like interested in nature, planting, building, you know, a community. That stuff is what they went there for, but it ended up being something totally
His
different.
slaves. If he told you go over there, you go over there. If he tells you stand in that corner for 3 hours, you stand in that corner for 3 hours. If he tells you that we're not eating today, we're not eating today. If he tells you now we're sleeping, now we're sleeping. If he tells you we're awake, we're getting up now, we're getting ready to go. That's what we're doing. There was no saying no. There's no argument. There's no questioning. If he tells you to fight, you and that person, you better start throwing up them hands. There's no saying no to him. Talking about these people do what they want to do. No, they do what you tell them to. They're afraid. And of course, all these women have wanted to leave. Of course, they have all packed their bags. Of course, they have all been headed out the door. Portia has left. We've dropped her off at the bus station. Kayla has left. She's went back to her mom's house. Jayon has left multiple times. Tanisha has left multiple times. But you know how many times on average it takes to leave an abusive relationship? Research shows 7 to 10 times. Why y'all didn't jump him? He was the most important figure in our life, our deity. We wouldn't even think to jump him.
And then,
And if we would think about it, we would think that we were demonic.
Yeah. And then you gotta also consider that if you initiated an attack and the other people decided not to move forward with it, you would be on the receiving end of the attack you initiated. So in the presence of 8 or 9 women, those women are gonna jump you. In the presence of 8 or 9 men, you're gonna get jumped by those 8 or 9 men. We did.
That was a useless question because if you've been watching Carbonation, you already know it was groupthink. It was an actual cult. So if one of the members did jump out there and say, you know what, I'm gonna fight him. Let's get together and beat him up. There was a very high likelihood that that member would get beat the hell up by all of the other members.
You're gonna get jumped by those 8 or 9 men. We did it to Loyal. We beat Loyal to sleep.
Yeah, so bad. I don't even think the women were allowed to see him. We didn't even see him. I just know he was beat really bad.
We beat Loyal to sleep.
Yeah, I would be willing to testify. Absolutely. We beat up women, you know, on his orders. Upon his orders, Tanisha was beat up. Upon his orders, you know, I guess I thought I was doing something right because I didn't really get beat up. You know, he never and that's the thing. I know that he knows if those women leave, then they really have a much stronger case, even though the case is already strong. Because those women have multiple counts of being abused by him, whereas I, you know, he stomped on my head before, and slapped me, but I haven't got whipped like Tanisha got whipped, like a slave. I haven't got hit in my face to the degree, like I haven't got beat up like Kayla got beat up. You know, Kayla got beat
Up.
down. You know, to the point where, she's beautiful and her face looked not like how she looked. I mean, he has a history of beating women up. This ain't no foreign.
Right. It's
I
not
don't know
like
why. I don't know why we ever got online acting like this man is a saint. Like, no, he has a history of beating
that's the most
women up.
that's the most disturbing thing to me about the cult leader is that his inability to take accountability for what he's done, one, as if it never happened, and two, as if it's not
If it's,
recorded.
as if it's not literally documented. It's documented what you did to Maisha. Is it? People that were there at these times of your past relationships have come out and said, yes, it's true. Even he bragged about, pulling a gun out on Maisha. And the crazy thing is, I think that when he told us these stories about him and his past relationships, it was almost like we felt like, oh, wow, you came from that and you changed that much,
Exactly. Yeah.
and we just, it was like, I remember just thinking, oh, wow, this man really turned his life around, and because initially he wasn't putting his hands on nobody, but when we started, what it was, the drinking began heavily, like the Hennessy and stuff. That's when he started beating people up. And I think for a long time, like I said, I wasn't the one being beat, and I wasn't one of his direct wives, so I wasn't around when a lot of things happened. Like, I didn't see the first instances of abuse with Tanisha. I didn't see them. I heard about things online, because like some of the lives I didn't even watch him live with them and stuff, so I didn't know that certain things were happening. It wasn't until, I think, the reason why people think or say, like, was the Atlanta house where everything escalated to a whole different degree. It did escalate to a whole different degree, but I think what was so different about being in Atlanta was that we were all in the same house, like so close, and like kind of like Mama Cookie's house. Mama Cookie's house was like that too, where if him and Velvet got into a fight, we could all hear it.
Mm-hmm.
We could all hear it and see her flying out the door. It was like not a secret. But other times, on these properties we were so big, if somebody got into a fight, we couldn't hear that. If somebody started hitting somebody, we couldn't hear it. So there was so many times where I didn't see anybody getting harmed, but there was talk of, did you hear that thumping in the night, or did you hear this and that, or people would come to visit us and they'd be like, something ain't right, and I would just be like, oh, we mind our business here. I don't ask no questions, and I don't inquire about anything going on in their personal relationship, because I had my own things to worry about. But at the same time, when we was at that house in Atlanta, that's when I realized, oh, this is something that is serious. Like, I might not be the one laying down getting beat, but it doesn't make this right at all. Like, I knew it wasn't right. Justifying it with the Willie Lynch and
Right.
needing to beat the BITCH out of a woman, I know this is like really hard to believe, because me, in the state of mind I'm in now, finds it silly, but I really believe that I was a demon. I really believe that I was the devil. I believe that I was a devil used as a weapon against the Black man, and that the Black man had every right to abuse me because I'm his property, and I believe that if I was catching an attitude with him, if I did have any backlash towards the Black man and I choose to be with him, then I deserve every bit of consequences, chastising, abuse, because I chose to be with a Black man and I should obey him.
Now, I, for one, do not see an issue with a woman submitting to her man. I think that we as a society have moved very far away from women being, able to support their mate. But when it comes down to abuse and being chastised and, you know, beating the bitch out of a woman, I don't agree with that at all. I do not agree with that at
and
all.
I should obey him. And I believed in that. So with the other women got their consequences for quote unquote being disobedient, I thought, well, if they just stood up straight and walked with poise and grace and smiled through it like I do, they wouldn't have that problem. You know, I just thought that I was better or something because I didn't visually catch attitudes. I was more good at hiding my feelings. And I felt like, you know, they should get good at it too if they wanted to survive. But I think that those women know in their hearts that it wasn't right, and they had attitudes for a reason. They expressed their hurt and their pain for a reason because they wanted to be heard. But the thing is, he wants to make sure that you don't advocate for yourself, that you don't have self-respect, and that you allow him to tell you what's best for you at all points in time. So, you know, they don't even trust themselves anymore. If you ask them, who do you trust more, him or you? They'll say him.
I'll say him, yeah.
You know, who do you love more, him or you? Him. He tells you to love him above yourself, even though it's the motto is supposed to be, I love myself, right? But he says, I am you, I'm the higher you. So you should love me first before you love you, because you don't have this ability that I do to tap into the higher you, you know. But that's a lie. The higher me would never abuse me. The higher me would never put me in danger, you know. No. So, you know, I speak out because it brings awareness to that this is not a game. It's not entertainment. It's not like a funny story. It's a real life situation. You know, there's a lot of women that endured the things that we endured that had not spoken out, I'm sure. Maybe not with this man, maybe with other men, but there's things like this that happen, and people think they don't deserve a chance to speak out and tell the truth because of the backlash they may get. And so I bring awareness because I know that I'm strong enough to handle that. You know, I'm strong enough to handle that. Anything that people have to say, I'm strong enough to handle that, you know, because dang, I was strong enough to get out of that situation. So I know I can handle anything, you know, and get my child out of that situation. And I know people was like, having a child for me would have just woke me up. But you have to understand, like, he was the most important relationship in my life. Not even the pure innocence of my child's eyes could wake me up, you know. I watched this interview of one of the ladies last night of one of the ladies that were involved with R. Kelly for years. She was in there for 5 years as well. And she said, a question was asked to her, what could have been said to you or done to get you out of that situation earlier? And she said, nothing. Absolutely nothing. It was only me, you know, there was nothing that could have woke me up. It was just me. Like, and it's amazing to me because I see that now in the other women. You know, I so badly and desperately want them to get out, but it's not up to me. It's not up to anyone.
And months later, into after Eligio Bishop, aka Nature Boy, aka Three God, has been arrested, Aya, aka Portia Wade, Zoka, aka Jayon Marie Hamilton, Efaru, aka Kayla Buckner, and Malia, aka Tanisha DeLay, are all still there. They're all still there, proclaiming the kingdom, making sure that Eligio Bishop, aka Nature Boy, aka Three God, has money on his books and he can make phone calls, and they're still trying to raise funds for his legal defense. It's just amazing to me that those women are still there.
It's not up to anyone, but I just bring awareness because I know that it's not a game, it's real life.
Watching all them interviews just from different places, whether it be YouTube, Netflix, whatever platform, it really makes me feel obligated to do the same, because I feel like it's a requirement to be brave enough and a part of your process of healing to speak out, because the large contributing factor of people not speaking out is the fear. And even after leaving the cult with your actual body, you still have to take time and the steps to leave the cult psychologically, because it doesn't do you any good to remove yourself from the environment physically. If you're still going to have that mentality carrying forward in your life, you might as well have still been there. So for me to have build up such a excessive momentum defending the cult leader, I knew that in order for me to heal, I would have to do the complete opposite and tell the truth regardless of how it would make him look, because I realized that there is a thing called, I just made this up, called cult residuals. Whereas there was times where I felt bad for eating. I found myself overanalyzing how much I was eating. I found myself not wanting to have too much fun, not wanting to relax, not wanting to say anything against the cult leader, and trying to basically disassociate myself as if it never happened, saying that, I'm not going to talk about that. That was a chapter in my life. I'm doing something different. But in order to really move forward, because I don't want to be in a Bill Cosby situation where I'm coming out 20 years later. If those people are just now coming out 20 years later, that means they were stuck in their own psychological development for 20 years, even though they may have been able to pay bills, they've been able to go to vacations, they may have seemed like they was normal. To just now come out after 20 years mean that you were trapped psychologically in that state for 20 years. And I'm not about to be 60 still displaying characteristics of the cult. I'm going to go at this in the same way, in the same energy that I had while I was in the cult, because that was me. That energy is me. That energy wasn't brought out because I was in the cult. I've always had that energy. I've always had that attitude. It was just unfortunate that I used that energy to fuel and support a mission that was sinister. So I take that same energy and I realize I'm watching other people. These speaking out is something that is necessary, because I have to break down the habit of defending somebody, because that means that I have to walk around as a liar. I'm making you look good, but I'm a liar. And that can no longer coexist. If making you look good requires me to lie, I'm sorry, I can no longer do this no more. And I don't owe you to lie. You did these things. Just like I told people, yes, there has been instances where I put my hands on Kendra. The thing about it is that nobody gets to point a finger in my face and say I'm this. When I change my behavior, I'm clear. But my issue with the cult leader and anybody like him, whether that be Charles Manson or your baby daddy, I don't respect that behavior when you have an inability to own up to what you did just to save your face in the public image. I don't respect that. I'm not on here. I want y'all to look at what he did so y'all can not look at what I did. I want y'all to know that I know what I was doing was wrong, because when you know what you was doing was wrong, that means you are now in a state to change. The cult leader is in jail and he refuses to admit what he done, which means that he ever get out, he gonna do it again with another group of people. R. Kelly started out with Aaliyah and he still did it until the day he got locked up. So I know the cult leader ain't gonna change, because this man is still doing downloads like he's some type of messiah.
No, he's not getting
Is
her.
you crazy? I was there. I watched
Yeah.
you do this stuff. I'm gonna put my stuff out there, and I'm gonna put your stuff out there. If you gonna
Yep.
do it, then somebody got to do it. Just like Sybil said in her interview, you did it to yourself. You're gonna be known as a fake messiah. And the
Mm-hmm.
women there, I believe, because it was one of my reasons. I feel like they're afraid that they're gonna forever be known as that girl that was in the
Mm-hmm.
cult. I noticed the
Mm-hmm.
cult residual when I was in Walmart one day, and it just so happened that it was some people from my hometown that was at Walmart. They recognized me, came up and gave a hug. But in the back of my mind, I'm thinking that they're thinking that, oh, there go that crazy dude that was in the cult. But you have to move past that. You
Mm-hmm.
have to face that. You are in a cage of your own doubt that was facilitated by a man who was insecure in himself and needed you to be insecure so that he could use that as a mechanism for control.
I really wonder if Aya, aka Portia Wade, Soka, aka Jayon Marie Hamilton, and Efaru, aka Kayla Buckner, and Malia, aka Tanisha Dulay, ever watched this video, these lives with
as a
Aaron and
mechanism
Kendra.
for control. He needs to keep them women on the phone all
Yep.
day, because if they ever regain their own self-confidence, they gone. And if they gone, he ain't gonna have nothing to use to make himself remain relevant. He's afraid to be forgotten because he's never got any real attention from nobody in his whole life. People are watching for two reasons. When are those women gonna leave, and how much time is he gonna get? Ain't nobody listening to you for no
Mm-hmm.
astrology readings or no relationship advice. I don't care what people think about me. I refuse to get on this camera and lie after lying for 4 years straight. You can think I'm a woman abuser. You can think I'm just as bad. You can think I should go to jail just like them. But at least I know I can die and I was really real, rather than faking and pretending like I'm being real in this fake cult.
Somebody said something very important. Said the cold part is that it's a whole bunch of people out here like him, teach your children people. And I really feel that for real, because I thought about it. I look at my son and I'm like, if he were to ever get involved in something like this, bruh, like my heart would be broken. I can only imagine what, and based off what my family told me, what they was really going through. Me thinking I was 24 years old when I left, so they just thinking that they wouldn't be, I guess, that worried because I'm quote, I'm so-called grown, and just thinking that I was just living my life, but now looking back on what I looked like, what I sounded like, what was happening, I know that my family, when they told me they couldn't even watch me, I know that them words was real. I know that their feelings were very real. I don't know exactly what they went through on a day-to-day basis, but I know that, they struggled. I know that they were in a lot of pain. I know they suffered, because if my child ever got involved in something like this, I I don't even know how I'd be able to sleep. I don't even know, like, I would be heartbroken, like, and then knowing that there's really nothing I can do until my child realizes for himself, like, I would just be broke to
And
a
you
whole
can't move
nother
forward.
degree.
You can't just move forward.
And you can't, like, it doesn't matter, like, you don't have a child, like, you don't remember your child being little and taking care of them, and now they're saying these things, and it's not them. Like, I know my family looked at me in those videos and were like, that's not even her.
Right.
Like, who is that? Like, we don't even know who that is. They told me when I started losing so much weight, they couldn't even watch no more. They're just like, I can't even look at you, you know, and how hard that must have been for them. If I can understand now, you know, having a healthy relationship with my child, that if my child was to ever be involved in something like this, and that's why I think, you know, it's very important to bring awareness, because I think that maybe a lot of people think never could it be me or, you know, my family. But it very well could be, because there's not really a target when it comes to what type of people get involved with these type of abusive people. It's not really, I mean, there's people like all of us really who have families. All of us involved had families for the most part. Not necessarily every single person, but a lot of us had families. My family in particular is a very close family. So, you know, if you see my family today and you saw my interaction with my family today, you'd be like, why would you ever leave your family? You know, what made you just block your family and never talk to them? You know, like, what type of things were you going through where you really believe that these people were your lower self? Like, what? And so it's very possible for somebody with that level of manipulation to make you feel like, you know, your family is not who you think they are. They're really against you, pin them against you. You know, Tanisha's family, when they reached out to her to help her while she was literally on her deathbed, he pinned her against her family and told her that her family was her enemy. She didn't need to talk to them. She didn't need to, you know, accept anything from them. Anything from them. He provided her, well, he got people to provide her with transportation, cell phone, food, housing, all of that, so that she would associate him with safety and security and not her family. You know, so it's like, it goes deep, because people would think, well, she was in New Orleans. Why didn't she just go back with her family? He planted these seeds in her mind that if she accepted anything from her family, and he did it on live, if she accepted anything from her family, that her family would then expect her to, you know, do what they wanted her to do, and she wouldn't be able to live her life how she wanted to live her life. When her family literally came out and said, we're not trying to control her, we're trying to look out for her health, you know, we want her to be safe and healthy, just like any normal person is. You know, he's the only sick individual that thinks that people are after somebody because they want to control them. No, people are looking out for their family members because they want the best for their family. You know, since he didn't never experience that, he believes that people are only after control and power and money, when that's what he's after. You know, so yeah, it's interesting, you know, knowing that we all, or a lot of us, came from a lot of good families. You know, in my family probably never thought I would get involved in something like this, but it just was, you know, right time in my life. He got me at the right, at, you know, or I should say the wrong time in my life, where I just was at a crossroads, and I said, well, let me make, I was at I had an identity problem at that time, and I needed something to attach to. Some people go to a religion. Some people, you know, get a new job. Some people move to a different place, start over. I happened to join what I thought was a movement of people that wanted to live in peace and harmony and holistic well-being and health, community, nature. And it turned out that it was all a lie, you know. But I didn't realize it till after 5 years. It just happened that way. But you know, it's definitely not a specific person that's targeted in these situations, because I'm not a small-minded person. I'm not a weak person, but I think I am an empathetic person. I think I am a very compassionate person. So when the cult leader told me about you know, all of the things that happened in his childhood, and I sympathized with him. I empathized with him. I felt like, wow, this person has been through so much. You know, I looked at him as, you know, someone that was genuine at one point. You know, it's crazy. I was talking to somebody that was also involved in the cult, and I told, and I was like, you know what was so crazy is just the fact that I thought he was this normal guy. Like, he was just walking around like he's this normal guy. Like, I just thought he was normal. It's like it kind of just crept up, you know, everything just kind of crept up. And you know, from the outside looking in now, I look at him and I'm like, oh, he looks crazy. But that's because I know now that he is crazy. But I think even some people that were online just watching him and viewing him over the screen were a little bit, you know, tricked into believing that he was actually just a normal guy, or maybe even a real man, like he was saying, you know, I'm a
Right.
real one. I'm a real one. You know, I think that, you know, me never really knowing anybody with that type of personality, I thought, oh, maybe he's just a real one. Maybe he just come from the streets and that's just how he is. Um, but nah,
I've
nah.
noticed that people's over assertion to convince people of what they are is usually grounds for confirmation that they are not. You rarely see people who actually have money feel the need to tell anybody that they have money or make overt displays that they have money. And looking back, him constantly trying to suggest that, oh, I'm a real dude, or I got a big heart, or I'm this and I'm that, is really an indication that he's not. Because when somebody is actually something, then you see it in their embodiment and the expression of their actions. I realized that the cult leader relied heavily upon his ability to use words, but when you start to notice that his words didn't align with his actions, you began to pay more attention to his actions as an appropriate means to determine who he actually was. And that's one thing that I feel like eventually runs its course in a cult leader's mind, in a cult member's mind, or even in a regular relationship. You tend to just begin to lose value in what that person's saying, and you begin to be more aware of what they're doing. If I keep saying, baby, I love you, baby, I love you, baby, I love you, but my actions say I don't care about you, over time, baby, I love you just doesn't do what it did in the beginning. And I think that that was a major part of me, as well as other people, leaving the cult and really being able to see the cult leader for who he was, because you can't deny his actions regardless of how grand his statements were. And that's one thing I feel like is going to really be the nail in the coffin as far as his case is concerned, because no matter what you type on a piece of paper and no matter what you try to say online in a phone conversation, we are going to be able to examine your actions to determine the nature of your character. And that's a thing that I hope people apply, not just to this situation, but in their lives. Because when people really love you, they don't have to tell you. They don't have to tell you.
Mm-hmm.
Telling you is kind of like just a little sprinkle in conjunction with how much and how well they show you. And if somebody's real, they don't have to affirm that to you. You're going to reach that. They're so confident that they're real that they know you're going to eventually reach that conclusion. Martin Luther King said, I had a dream. He didn't say I'm a good person. Malcolm X never said I'm a good communicator or a good speaker. He just did it. So the cult leader, and as well as the cult members, have this huge fascination with trying to convince people of what they're doing, because we're really not doing nothing that
Mm-mm.
we're saying or that we're demanding you to do. And the irony about the greatest irony about carbonation is that the very thing that we were trying to preach to other people is things that we actually needed to do. Anybody that loves themselves don't have to keep making it a reminder.
Mm.
Who are you trying to convince? The people or yourself? I love myself should have been an action more than it was a repetitive statement.
And what's up with the victimization? I feel like, when I first went out to join the cult, I didn't know I was joining a cult, but I remember one thing that really um, gravitated me, it really pulled me towards the group, and that was that we weren't victimizing ourselves. We were saying, you know what, this system is not what we want to be a part of. It's not about
Yeah,
the fact
correct.
that the white man this and the white man that. It's just about separating ourselves and creating something new, creating something not necessarily new, but different outside of the system. Like, we don't have to bash the white man. We don't have to attack the white man. All we need to do is separate ourselves. So I thought that was very honorable because I was at that point, I had a lot of, I think, anger or misunderstanding for white people. So I remember, like, white people I used to get irritated, like, oh, I used to just, I thought that, I was on this like black power, white people are the devil type thing. And so when I was introduced to this whole, like, no, everything is a mirror, it's a reflection, and everybody deserves love. I thought, well, that's empowering. I can let go of this anger and this hatred that I have for white people. Over time, you know, going forward, I realized that now we're screaming about white supremacy, and now the white man is this and the white man is that, and enslaved us, and I thought we enslaved ourselves. I'm just so confused on why we're bashing white people now. And when the police, was doing wellness checks, we were like, oh, they up in our business, it's the white man always in our business. Like, no, these people are doing their jobs because we're causing issues in the community. It's like,
I'm very happy to hear Kendra, aka Sheba, go into, her perspective being outside of the cult now, because while they were there, they were with the shits. They were with the shits. They were, they all in our business. The trolls are demonic, and they were keeping that type of time when they were in the cult. So it's refreshing to see that she's really freed herself from that mind control.
issues in the community. It's like there was no accountability, and everything just turned into victimize this, victimize that. But the main thing that we were preaching was no one's a victim. You're in charge of your reality. You are God. Take accountability. Be responsible for your actions and how you respond to life. Meanwhile, everything that was being said about us, or when people would respond to us, and when authorities would respond to us, we were always the victims. And it was like, and that's just a reflection of him, because he never, I mean never was an issue in any of his relationships. He never says I was the issue. I had a drinking problem. I had a problem with putting my hand on these women. I had an issue with going and sleeping with hundreds of women. I had this issue. It was never his problem, like, it was always someone else. And when people say things like, oh, he has potential to change, I say absolutely not. Absolutely not. He doesn't, because he shows no potential to change, because he shows zero accountability ever. And the only times where I've seen him show accountability was to manipulate. And he would cry. He literally would shed tears, like, I'm so sorry, I did so wrong, only to then turn around and do it again, or do something even worse. Like, this is not a this is a person who literally knows how to manipulate people. He was in a psych ward. Well, if that's true, he was literally in a crazy house. He knows how to manipulate the situation. And it's amazing. It's amazing to me, looking back now and just thinking about how things switched, over time to, oh, we don't believe in this, to now this is what we do. There's so many contradictions, so much, it was just, the, oh, won't ever be no, I won't ever bring no transsexuals here because that's not natural. Next thing you know, there's a transsexual here. It's like, what? What?
And then you had the smoke doesn't belong in the body, but we're smoking not just marijuana, but we're smoking Black and Milds.
And we're smoking them every day,
And we're going
multiple
to get
times a day.
packs. We're going to get packs of Black and Milds.
Asking for donations, but these donations are going to what? We built nothing.
In
We
5
built
years,
nothing. And it makes me so angry to think about everything this person took and built nothing. I mean, literally doesn't have $1 to his name, and you're complaining about being left in jail without any money? Dude, how much money did you get over this span of time? You were saving nothing. There's no
How can somebody
way.
How can you build a sustainable village and you're not even sustainable in your own self?
Not at all. At all. Literally nothing to show for it. And I remember in Mexico, it was so hard for me to leave. He even told me, well, just stay here then, because I was pregnant and we had just built these gardens. It was like this house was my home. That land, that was my home. And he got scared because the police came and he's like, we have to go. And I'm like, bro, we just literally were starting a garden. Like, we were just starting to grow food. Like,
Now that's a good point. Eligio Bishop, aka Nature Boy, aka Three God, did see a lot of money pass through his hands throughout the years. Namely, Keys, aka Flo, gave him $300K. And he's gotten a lot of donations, and a lot of the members actually came with money. But he just wasted it all.
I'm just supposed to leave abruptly with no plan, nowhere to go, 6 months pregnant? Are you serious? And he's like, well, just stay here then. And I'm just like, well, obviously I don't have a choice, but it's just like, from that day forward, we built nothing. It was like never a freaking seed planted. Like, it was like nothing. And then the narrative changed to, oh, we can't build anything until the system falls. And it's just like,
That's not true.
It's pathetic. It's
That's
pathetic because there's people building
There's
things
people doing
everywhere.
it. There's people doing it. There's people building sustainable villages. It's not nothing new. It's been done before and it's being done to this day. There's people who are, why would you want to wait till a system falls to then begin prepare? There's people who are doomsday preppers. They're literally doing the work. We're talking about breaking generational curses. We're talking about the Black woman is this and the Black woman is that. But there's clearly an increase of Black women and Black men staying together. You can see it. You see it online. But when you're in this container and viewing reality from the perspective of the cult leader alone, then you don't allow your own mind to grow and realize that this cult leader may not be as intelligent as you're assuming him to be, because you can find, if anybody, and the cult leader was notorious for coming up with these grand thoughts and running to Google to find an article to support his thoughts. With so much access to information and anybody's ability to put something on the internet, anybody, regardless of what you believe, you can pull an article that says you're right. So we can't rely so heavily on a Google search, because if I want to find an article that says you should eat apples every day, I'll find it. If I want to find an article that says you should not eat apples, I'll find it. So we have to find some other means of relying on information and determining its credibility. And that's why I no longer subscribe to the idea that schools are ridiculous. Schools are nothing more than an environment where skills and information are transferred to the next group of people. If I am about to get an operation or a surgery, I want the operation to be performed by a doctor who went to school and received the training, not by a doctor that looked up how to do the surgery on YouTube. There's too many YouTube philosophers and YouTube self-appointed geniuses. You don't become skilled by reading documents or watching YouTube videos. You become skilled by applying and practicing and experiencing that which you're talking about. So everything, and then when you look at the contradictions, oh, nothing in nature has a hospital, nothing in nature has a school. But when that mouth swelled up like you had swallowed a grapefruit, you went to where? A doctor who learned what? How to do and perform his career task from where? A school. When you realize that your ability to deliver a child and your experience level was 0, you took Velvet to a what? A hospital. So and let's not even talk about cosmic currency, because this is something I want to talk about. You want to talk about cosmic currency and not working for the system. Where was our money coming from? Tory. Where was our money coming from? Donations from people who do
the
what?
government.
Who do what? Work for the government.
It was coming from the government, period.
How was we paying for our food? Food stamps. What was we doing with this stimulus check?
Stimulus checks, PPP loans. Some people got them loans.
Unemployment. You got to think. Some of y'all was getting about 2 racks for unemployment.
Yep.
Multiply that
every
times
month.
10. We was making 20 bands a month. What do we have to show
Nothing.
for it? But nothing but a goofy dude dressing up in costumes, drinking Hennessy, smoking weed, and taking trips.
Yep, taking all them trips. That's where all that money went. And I didn't even know that, Aaron, until you told me that. Like a month or 2 ago, when you told me about how much money we had in Puerto Rico, because only people that knew about the finances was
us.
You.
Was 18.
And 18. And so I'm like, wait, we had how much money coming
20
in?
bands.
Because
20,
I don't remember getting
no
extra clothes or getting no extra food or getting no extra necessities. I remember him going on trips though. But from my understanding, we was always, living a minimal life. So I just thought, I never asked for a whole lot or nothing, but I'm like, oh, this man buying J's and new denim sets and jackets and jewelry, grills, out the watches coming out the woodwork, all of a sudden now he live in Atlanta with a brand new car. He going to Vegas. He doing this, he doing that. How does he have this much money? Oh, my bad. I didn't realize all of us literally had at least a rack coming in every month, because we wasn't in charge of our own finances. I was not in charge of my own finances. I didn't know what type of things were on my account. I just had to run my credit to make sure I didn't have no outstanding things, in my credit, because I don't know. I believe that those women still there, they don't know what's on their credit. They don't know what could possibly be outstanding for them, because he has people apply for things through other people. So I don't know. I never did my own, I never applied for unemployment on my own. I didn't know
somebody was applying.
Somebody applied for that for me. You know what I'm saying? So I'm like, I don't even know what these accounts what the accounts are open. You know what I'm saying? Like, oh, and let's not even neglect to talk about the whole reason why we were in Philadelphia.
Oh, let's not even oh my goodness.
The whole reason why we were in Philadelphia was to get money, to go to these different banks. We were told, go to these banks and open up accounts and do this and do that. I suppose we were scamming, but nobody knew. I don't know if nobody knew, but I personally didn't know about why we were going to these banks. What was the purpose of this? We were not told, as far as the women, because the women were staying in another room, the 3 of us, me, Kayla, and Jayon. But we were ordered to, go to these banks and do this and do that. They was taking us everywhere. I remember, me and you weren't together at the time, so I remember I was going with the other guys to the banks and stuff like that. I didn't know why I was going to these banks, open up accounts. Scamming. Why? But I thought we don't work for money. I thought we don't use the government. Oh, okay. Oh, all right.
If y'all want to know how Carbonation was funded, scams and military
Scams,
checks and
fraud.
donations. Fraud, military checks, and donations.
Yep.
Cosmic currency, my boy, cut it out, man.
Cut it out,
Cut
bro.
it
I'm
out, my
tired of
boy.
the fake woke spirituality is dead, bro.
Cut,
Cause it's
cut it
like
out.
at this point wasn't no universe working magic. You know, we was slaving for this person, whatever by whatever means, except going to get a job. We so against going to get a job. Meanwhile, we slaving day in and day out for this person and scamming the government. Like what? I'm so glad I didn't get one of them PPP loans. I'm so glad
Me
I don't
either.
got no
Mine didn't go
crazy
through.
things on my
What?
credit. I'm so
Man,
glad
mine
because
didn't go
who
through.
knows what it would took for me to pay that back.
I know people wanted to know that. I know people were saying I got a PPP loan. Mine didn't go through.
Yeah, mine didn't go
Mine didn't go
through.
through.
Thank
So like
goodness.
my thing is, y'all, is telling the truth is more important than me and what it's gonna make me look like. Cause now I get to move through life and know that I can start from here and move forward and never have to live a lie again. But in order to move forward, I have to let everything out that I've been carrying with me. So now, so when it comes to the PPP loan, yeah, scamming. Then also the cult leader convinced Porsche to take upon his debt from not
Yep.
paying rent,
Yep.
thinking that he was going to use some type of grand scheme to not have to pay it. Porsche now has $12,000 to $13,000 of unpaid rent on her name because the cult leader didn't want it on his name because of the position he's already in. So
Mm-hmm.
now she's assumed his debt, thinking that she did something honorable.
Mm-hmm. Thinking that, oh, it's the straw man. It's not me. It doesn't matter. It's not going to affect me because I'm not my straw man and the government has no effect on me. I'm untouchable. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
That's the
But see,
whole
here's the
reason why you're
thing.
sitting in jail now.
Here's the thing. The system has to be in place for people like him. The system
Yes.
creates a fair opportunity for everybody. But if we were completely dependent upon some leader, self-appointed leader, you see what that leads to. Just like the dude, I don't know if y'all seen it. I posted it on my story. Please, please, please go watch Keep Sweet, Pray, and Obey. I will post it on my story later. There's a guy who ran a cult called the FLDS, the Fundamentalist Church of Jesus Christ and Latter-day Saints, who was using young girls and polygamy to create his own little world. But behind that was a lot of inappropriate and abusive things being done. So the reason why polygamy is illegal, which I assume maybe one reason that I could see as a valid reason, is because people like Warren Jeffs exist. And then when you watch it, you'll understand it's not for population control. And one thing I know is that the truth is boring. The truth is boring. So a lot of people are getting a lot of attention from circulating these conspiracies about what's going on, but I can see why the government has certain stipulations and mechanisms of control, like the age of consent. The cult leader's weird for saying that the age of consent is, according to nature, is when a girl starts having her period. But no, we know that a 12-year-old is susceptible mentally, even though her body may be ready to reproduce, to certain manipulations. So of course the government is going to increase the age of consent to a place where somebody has the mental capacity to be able to say that they want to have sex or not, because the government understands that a young girl is easily influenced and manipulated, even though her body is able to be impregnated. So I'm sorry, y'all, I forgot, but I'm just now catching that's strange that you would support that and make it seem like the government is trying to use that only for population control and to prevent the black man from reproducing himself.
Right.
No. A grown 30-year-old man should not be interested in an 11-year-old girl just because her period is on. That's weird. That's why those types of things are in places, because niggas like you.
Yep.
I
They're
didn't mean
really
to say the N word, y'all.
right.
Excuse me. I'm
Yeah.
working on my profanity. Negroes like you.
Hmm.
So I can see why the government has grocery stores, because men like you will harbor food to get people to work for
Yep.
you. I see
Withhold
why they have money
resources.
to give everybody a fair opportunity, because men like you will use resources if you had the capacity to create your own world that is not for the betterment of the people, but is only for the betterment of you. So
Hmm.
let's not sit up here and act like the system is just this grand demonic thing, but rather not something that's in place for fairness. Because if men were able to just run wild, we'd have a lot of dudes like you
Hmm.
in control and in power. And what type of world would that be? We don't need,
Yeah.
imagine
I
a world ran by Jim Jones, a world ran by Charles Manson, a world ran by Warren Jeffs.
Yeah. And at one point I remember like in my mind just like, oh, I don't have a choice to go along with this because the system, in my mind I'm like the system is not real or whatever. Like, oh, if the system failed today, I would have to basically submit to this person. But I would rather die. I'd rather die than be in any type of relationship bond with that person. Like he talking about, when the system falls, people are gonna bow to me. No, dude, no. I will off myself before I bow to you for real.
Before
And that's
I,
on everything. I really
for real.
would never bow to that person ever in my life because I mean, look at him. Look at what he does to people. He destroys lives with no remorse. I told some of the women, I told her, I apologize for slapping you. I apologize for being horrible to you. You know, something that I know that he would never do. You know what
Eligio Bishop, aka Nature Boy, aka Three God, would never apologize because he felt he's done nothing
I
wrong.
know that he would never do. You know what I'm saying? He would never do that. He would never apologize for the things that he's done. And he would only admit it to seem more powerful, and one of the things that I realized with, doing research on the survivors of R. Kelly was that abusers, some abusers and manipulators hide in plain sight. They say what they do. They talk about it. There was so many times where he got online and he bragged about his power and control over us. And I guess for some people that was like, oh, he admits to it, so he's not that bad, because he's upfront and he's truthful. Even him, he would say, well, at least I'm real about mine. I don't hide it. But some people just feed off of that. They like that they have this power and control over others, and they, instead of hiding it, they flaunt it. Look at me, I get all these young girls to come be with me, and you know it's like we fell into it. I thought that, wow, this person's so honest, but really, he just hungry. He was hungry for power. It was never enough attention. It was never enough power. It was never enough for him, you know ever. That's why it was like he could have 6 7 women around him, but he's still online trying to recruit more, because he wanted to feel like he was the most powerful, and untouchable, you and I'm just so glad he's getting what he deserves now. I believe that's truly what he deserves. I mean, of course, other things I feel like he deserves, but I know that, I don't have to forgive him. I don't. I know people always talk about forgiveness and stuff. I don't have to forgive him. I forgive myself. I don't have to forgive him for anything. And anybody that's talking about, oh, but he had knowledge and oh, he did this for you and did that for you. You wasn't there. You wasn't in that room with me.
Yeah. And
Or with
that's,
any of those women for that matter.
yeah.
Anybody talking about the alleged victim, you
We weren't
wasn't
there.
there.
I wasn't even there.
You wasn't in that room. You wasn't in that house. You wasn't there in 2017, 2018, 2019, 2020. You wasn't there. So it's like, and even if you say, I came there for a couple of weeks and you seen what? Yo, we went to some waterfalls, so everything was cool. You wasn't there, bro. You didn't have no child there, bro. you didn't experience the things that, well, why are you talking about it now? Because I experienced it. I understand that there's going to be people that never will understand because they just weren't there, and that's okay. But when you do experience something like this with me, the type of person I am, I'm gonna wake it up because I know that there's so many women out here that feel alone. I know that.
Man.
Because me watching these other women talk, the survivors of R. Kelly talk, I relate to each one of those women. I'd be wanting to reach out to those women like,
Yeah, for
I
real. Like,
feel you.
I
I
seen the daddy
feel
with
you.
her daddy with the two fathers
Yeah.
that was on there. I wanted to call them boys, man.
Yeah.
Like, man, bruh,
I feel
you
you.
won't believe, bruh. Like,
Y'all, I cannot wait for Eligio Bishop, aka Nature Boy, aka Three Gods trial to start, because I feel that we're going to learn quite a bit about the inside dealings
I
of this
feel you.
you won't
cult.
believe, bruh. Like, man, I know, man.
I feel you.
And
And it's all that's it about. It's not about like, oh, I'm just trying to say everything. I'm not, nah, bro. I feel for people that go through stuff like this because I've been through it. You know, I just feel it.
and it can be a lonely world.
Yeah.
And I was telling people, like, you don't understand how, like, something as simple as a hug
Yeah.
could literally prevent somebody from committing suicide. Just that little bitty display of humanity and kindness can literally give somebody enough hope to keep going. But you might not have never known it. So I gained that after leaving the cult, and I seen these people. This lady was in People's Temple from 1970 to 1978. Here we are, 2021, 2022, and she's still talking about it. So I'm like, this lady is literally helping me, and she doesn't know it, and I may not never be able to address her directly. So I'm gonna take that stance. It doesn't have to be a give and take. I help you, you help me directly. If I can help somebody who may be in an abusive relationship with just their boyfriend, not necessarily a cult, then that's a blessing in itself. I realized from watching other people tell their stories that it wouldn't be right for me to withhold mine. Regardless of the backlash, the potential backlash, the potential misunderstanding, the potential ridicule. Shoot, I got ridiculed and misunderstanding in the cult. It ain't no different. at least if you gonna get ridiculed, if you gonna at least be misunderstood and ridiculed for telling the truth. You lying, I'm lying and getting ridiculed and misunderstood.
Yeah.
Of course, people. And then another thing that used to blow me was using the Bible as justification for what we was doing. The world hates the disciples. No, the world hates you. The world hates us because we're bad people. It's not because we're black. It's because we're bad people. It doesn't matter if a Chinese man was doing this. People hate bad people, and I didn't even like me, so I'm not even surprised that y'all hated the character I was playing. But the lack of accountability in that group is absurd, which means that there is no growth, because how can we talk about there's no growth in comfort? No, rearrange. There's no growth without accountability. That's why we don't have nothing to show for it, because we wasn't taking accountability. We was too busy telling you what you needed to do, missing the point of what we needed to do the whole time.
Yeah.
Yeah, that whole like, screaming at folks through the camera, through the live on how they need to live their life. Ridiculous. Oh, don't what's concealed can't be healed. Meanwhile, there's so many secrets.
Oh my god.
You know, I can't get online and really go deep and talk about what I'm going through because it'll quote unquote make him look bad, and
Right.
I got to keep this facade going that he is the way, the truth, and the light, and everybody needs to look to him for their salvation. So I can't be honest about how I really feel, like just how certain things really make me feel. Even I don't have the access to my true feelings because I've been manipulated so much. I just don't trust them anymore. I had got to a point where if I felt bad about something, I would say, you shouldn't feel bad about that. You need to be happy, be grateful that you even have some place to stay.
Y'all, mind control is real. Y'all better believe it's real. I'm telling y'all.
And that you have food and that you get to live in this beautiful place. Just be grateful. You don't have the right to be upset about anything. So it was like it, he didn't even have to be there present anymore. I could talk myself into his way of thinking by just diminishing how I felt, like making my own feelings small, really small and indetectable, and just pull what he would say and what he would think to the forefront. That's why I was, such a great advocate for it. People would come. I remember women would come to join and they would say, oh my goodness, you making this all make sense, and the reason why I could articulate it is just because I'm good at articulating. That's fine. But I think another reason was because I'm really good at letting I'm really good at taking on other people's energy sometimes. So I didn't realize that my feelings were solely based on his. If he was, I remember he would say things like, if I'm mad, all y'all should be
Right.
mad. If I ain't happy, none of y'all should be happy. And I remember I would feel that. I'd be like, oh, okay, yeah. So, when he got upset, oh, I got upset. When I was excited, I'm so excited, and you would think that it was genuine, genuine emotions coming from me, but it was just a learned behavior. I just learned that whatever he was feeling, I needed to feel, and this made him trust me. It made him feel, well, at least in my eyes, I thought he really trusted me because there was times where, you know, he would let me in on certain conversations, or say things to me he knew he could say and I wouldn't maybe tell another person, or, it was like he knew that he even said at one point, remember, Aaron, when we were in Vegas, he was like, he asked you if you would trust me with like $30,000 or something.
Oh yeah, yeah,
And,
yeah,
and
yeah,
and
yeah,
then
yeah.
he said, I
Yeah.
would, trust her with thirty
Right, right,
thousand
right.
dollars. And the reason why he said that is because he knew that if I did have $30,000, I would give it to him.
Mm-hmm.
And he knew that my level of commitment to him was very high. He knew he could pretty much get me to do anything and I would do it. Unlike, maybe some of the other ones like Jayon and stuff who were a little rebellious and would say like, I ain't trying to do that. He knew if he told me to drink the Kool-Aid, I'm drinking it, like he
Yeah.
just knew. You know, he could feel like he would say things like, she'll never leave me. I know she'll never leave
Right.
me. She loves
Y'all, please excuse all of my pop ups, my ring doorbell, my news update, all of those drop downs that cover the video a little bit. I was just starting out and I didn't realize that I could turn off the notifications when I'm recording. And it's pretty funny to see all of them flashing down up there. But hey, you
I
can
know
still
she'll
hear what
never
they're
leave
Right.
me.
saying.
She loves me, and I used to be so proud that he knew that I was very loyal to him. But you know, it was not it, it was not me who was loyal to him. I had just become exactly what I needed to become to survive in that environment. I had become
Right.
the perfect, the most upright slave. You know, master, we sick today. You know, I just
Right.
became it so good. And so he knew he could put me on front of the camera and I would play the role. I remember the one live I was telling you about the other day, how I sat on the live. Before the live, he told me that I was about to get left behind because I had an attitude about
Oh,
something.
that, yeah.
I
Okay, I
went
got you. Yeah.
upstairs. This was in Atlanta. I went upstairs, I got dressed, I put makeup on, I put the little beads on my neck, I put my hair up in a head wrap, and I sat in the back of his video with Janae and some of the other women that were there at the time. And he was doing this live on Instagram. And I remember just like putting on this face, this smile, and just nodding and just being so fake and phony. And I remember at the end of the live, he told me, "You did so good." Everyone was saying in the comments how beautiful you look. He was like a goddess, you know, and we danced in front of the camera after that and such. But I remember just knowing like that I lied about my facial expressions and everything, but I felt proud of myself because I had the ability to put on this front to the world that everything was okay. And it was like I had become the perfect model, you know, to show
Yeah.
that everything was fine. And it was
Yo,
just crazy.
me, like I've said before, I don't know medium. I don't have a medium. I don't have a 50% or 60%. So
Mm-hmm.
coming out there, and I had this attitude. It's pretty much like, okay, this is it. This is it. Fully commit, 100% or nothing. And I want to let people know about 18 and how 18 was used as a position of status to basically make you feel better than the other guys. 18, you can have a wife on 18. 18, got special privileges, certain status, certain exaltations in meetings or whatnot. So being on
You got to
18,
eat first.
got to eat
Sorry.
first. So being on 18 made me feel privileged. And he would often remove people from 18 to make them feel that lack of privilege, which would in turn cause them to want to work that much harder, not to just get back on 18, but to stay on 18. So basic level privileges became big deals in that group. And so men would literally do everything they could to maintain that status and position, because getting demoted was like the end of the world. And so a part of me, not just my attitude about doing things, a part of me going so hard was because I wanted to keep my status and position. I didn't want to be looked at like Tron was being looked at. Like Tron was often ridiculed for having been there for 4 years and not growing and still doing the same things. So I looked at him and I used him as an example of what I didn't want to do. And I realized, looking back, I was in a state of fear and survival, trying to maintain the highest status and position I possibly could without coming into conflict with the leader, without rubbing the cult leader the wrong way. So I would find different ways to stand out. I noticed a lot of the guys couldn't speak that well. A lot of the guys wasn't, they weren't, they were young. So I was viewed as more trustworthy. I could handle different things with my experiences in the military and in life. So I used that to fuel my ability to say whatever online, to do whatever behind the scenes. And inside of a cult, different ranking systems are used to encourage people to basically be on their best behavior.
Yeah.
And when your behavior, like a dog, is connected to whether or not you're going to get a treat, then that becomes your primary focus, and you begin to blank out your ability to use logic and reason to determine whether or not this is right or wrong. You begin only looking at things, is this going to keep my privileges or not?
Yeah. And when somebody new comes in, you or I were somebody that, were usually looked at as the person that would train them.
Trainers, yep.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Would we would tell them, this is what you do, this is what you don't do. You need to bow every time you give him something. You know, get on one knee and hand him whatever you're handing him, whether it be a glass of water or his cell phone. You need to get on one knee and give it to him. You know, when he comes into a room, we stand up. We all stand up and play, and we stand at attention with our hands behind our back. We even have there's even a call for that, you know. It was just so much. I think at one point we just thought, oh, this is just order and structure, or we're just militant.
Yeah.
But it was all for manipulation and control. People even saw it online, how we were moving according to his counts or his calls. You know, it's just...
It was all for his own ego-driven desires.
Y'all, if you haven't picked up your copy of Greatness is a Habit, I don't know what you're waiting for. It's available on Apple Books for $1. This book is authored by Aaron Dixon, aka True, and it's a great read, guys. It's worth the $1.
No, like, for example, when you're in the military, I don't know if anybody's been in the military, but when you go through basic training, when you go through AIT, when you're in the military, it's training. It's designed to prepare you for certain things that you may face in combat. It keeps you up, it keeps you sharp. But the difference between the difference between the cult and the military is that the cult leader was just doing stuff just to see how much control he had over us. It wasn't for training. It wasn't to prepare us. It wasn't to develop us. It was his own bottomless pit of insecurity and need to feel power. Because, like I said, I feel like at some point in his life, power was taken from him. And people who usually have their power taken from them, they try to regain that power.
All right, y'all. So that was part 2. Now we're going to get into part 3. I had these videos up on my YouTube channel originally as separate parts. That's why you see the first one, then it says part 2, then it says part 3, because I had split them apart. But in my effort to just minimize my re-uploading, I put them all together. I thought that would be a great idea. I mean, they all happened on the same day, so why not? All right, guys, let's get into part 3.
Are you back?
Hey, yeah, I'm here. I'm gonna mute myself though real quick, okay?
All right, that's fine. Okay, y'all's questions are very helpful to those of you who are actually empathizing with the situation. I know a lot of people have different perspectives. Some people view it as, another episode of Love and Hip Hop. Some people, view it as entertainment. Some people use it as an opportunity to, express their own hurt onto somebody who they feel like maybe deserves it, but it's okay. How do you feel releasing all this? Do you think, appreciate that, Bells, do you think him going to jail open your red? You probably meant a typo. Or open my eyes. Yeah, definitely. Like I tell people all the time, him going to jail prevented him from having a constant state of influence on our days. And that restriction, it forced you to insert your own pattern of thinking into those gaps where his process of thinking were formerly present. So that time where he was unable to call and speak, I actually finally had a real chance to sit with myself, and I began to examine things that I necessarily didn't have time to examine and come to conclusions on my own accord. And I realized, wow, I have the ability to use logic and reason. And over time, I slowly began to develop that logic and reasoning back, ultimately being able to make the decision to leave all together. What you said? What do you think about how people used to say they calling kids on y'all? You must meant to say cops. If that's what you meant to say, cops instead of kids, I think everybody was right. Whoever called the police, I think he was right. I know you was right because I was there. Everybody that called CPS, you was right to do that. Everybody that made videos, everybody that so-called trolled, everything you did, if you were trying to make the cult look bad, you did the right thing because we were bad.
It's amazing to me because hindsight is 2020, and for Aaron, aka True, to really realize that a lot of the people that were calling the police and calling CPS were actually trying to help them. They weren't the enemy, as Eligio Bishop, aka Nature Boy, aka Three God, painted them
Did the
out to
right
be.
thing because we were bad. If you were calling the local authorities or CPS, you did the right thing because those people needed to be called. It's all good. I know some people may not they may not have heard us address a lot of these questions, but it's okay. And I know that seeing Ja there, like even like now that I see Ja in the state that he's in, I'll be like, man, I can't believe I even had him there. And I'm glad, and I give myself a little grace because I got him out. I got him out. You know, I got him out. And I really understand like people on the outside looking in, like, what is that little baby doing there? What is this little baby doing around all this ignorance? Do you think the wise will ever leave? Yeah. I just understand that, and I just got access to this information from watching Survivor R. Kelly from one of the clinical psychologists, is that it on average takes a survivor or a victim 7 times to leave an abusive relationship. So I think that over time, as those women build up their courage, because they're only going to let you see certain things online, but behind the scenes, they're building, they're questioning their reality because that doesn't go away. They're trying to build up their courage to do what they know they need to do. But it takes some time and it takes several attempts. But one of the things that I've seen from watching a cult documentary is that cult members inevitably leave. They will eventually leave. They will eventually leave. And I had this thought. I was like, I wonder what John I wonder how he gonna feel when he's like 16, 17, 18, looking like, yo, John, you was there too. Like, look at you. You know, he might not, he probably ain't gonna remember none of it, but it's gonna be like, yo, you was there, man. You was there. Like it's I look at our story and it's a very interesting story to share. Like he has some of the most unique parents in the world. Like you don't, your mom and like our story, you usually hear your mom and daddy's story. Yeah, we met at church or we went to school together, but you rarely find people that can say, yo, me and your mama met in a cult. Oh, the cult documentary you need to watch is called Explained on Netflix. Explained is a series, but the episode is called Cults. Keep Sweet, Pray, and Obey is also on Netflix. And watch Survivor R. Kelly. Ra is actually in here, so I allow people to speak for themselves, and if I do make a statement on somebody, I always make it clear that I'm making an assumption or I'm speculating. But if you have a question for Ra, she's in here. How
I like the fact that Aaron, aka True, and Kendra, aka Sheba, present themselves in the way that they do, they're not going to actually tell anyone else's story. They're going to encourage others to speak out, but they're not going to ever like go out and tell other people's story unless they were actually there to witness it. I like that about them.
How do how do your parents feel about the situation? Well, my mother died when I was 15, and my father and my family in general, I think they're just glad that I'm back. They don't, try to probe or anything like that. The only thing my grandmother asked me when I was watching the cult documentary, she just wanted to know, are you thinking about going back? And I noticed that my grandmother always asked me, where am I going? Because I know in the back of her mind, you know, there's still this lingering possibility that I could go back, but I always let her know where I'm going, and I always, what I'm saying, communicate where I'm going and all that stuff like that, because I know and I have to accept and face that I caused damage to my family. And I only recently came back at the end of September. So the process is still going, the process is still going. But yeah, I just think my family's glad that I'm back. And it's really hard to understand what I was doing because I'm still in the process of understanding what I'm doing. So I think that my family kind of leaves it alone, and they just are just in the moment that I'm actually back, and they can see that I'm back. Like, I'm not back to pick up no mail. I'm not back to you know, wait for him to get out of jail. They can tell I'm really, really back. And so I think that's where we're at. Will they express things later on when they feel appropriate? Maybe. Is this y'all first time leaving the cult? Yeah. Me and Kendra were known as, the people that never left. And they've been here the longest, you know what I'm saying? That when we left, we left. We left. Like, we knew because we were so into it, when we left, we knew we was gone. I'm not the type of person that's gonna play back and forth. If I'm doing something, I'm doing it. If I'm not doing it, I'm not doing it. So once I left, I knew I was gone for good. I'm not playing. I'm not doing this. Ain't no test run. None of that. When I was done, I was done. And I had a real solid reason on why I was done. And it wasn't based in anything the cult leader had said, but it was based in my own internal compass that I had denied for a number of years, and potentially the course of my life. What would you say broke the spell? I would say that him going to jail allowed me to examine things that I never had time to examine because we were constantly being stimulated with teachings, standing on a wall, setting up scenes, doing just different things. One of the primary factors of a cult leader and their success is keeping the cult members busy. So we was always busy. When I was driving here, driving there, booking flights, booking hotels, going grocery shopping, teaching, doing something. I was constantly busy. But when he went to jail, he couldn't keep me busy no more. So I had to fill in that space with me. And filling that space in with me allowed me to regain my trust in me. That's the reason why cult members stay, is because they've lost their trust in themselves and have placed it upon the cult leader to make their decision. I started trusting myself again, and I was like, boom, this is what's really going on. I don't care what the cult leader trying to say. I don't care what kind of picture he trying to paint. This is what's really going on. Oh, definitely, Vanilla. It's amazing that in the cult leader's mind, I stole my own money. Narcissistic people will do anything for their own self-interest because of a lack of ability to see things from other people's understanding and to be able to relate to people. the cult leader is pathetic. Did I subscribe to astrology prior to carbonation? No. I haven't seen Lawyer since the day he left. Do the authorities have the hard drives that Lawyer took? I don't know if he turned them in. I don't know, but they don't need them. They have everything they need. Like I posted something on my story. A lot of people have opinions, but very few people have a law degree. Tabitha Pasmino, who is the not the defense attorney, excuse me, she's the prosecutor for this case. Y'all should check out her resume. You should check out her resume. I think that's a part of being a narcissist, is that you're unaware of your own behaviors. From my understanding, the only thing that was on the hard drives was his videos that he had put on YouTube as a backup. We were just backing up the videos from YouTube just in case they took the channel down. Was he nicer to y'all when his son would visit? He would always change his behavior contingent upon who was present for whatever outcome he wanted to produce. Yeah, of course. Social media lawyers think they know more than professionals, of course. Tabitha Pasmino. I just go to my my story. Did the men ever get hit? I think Courtney got slapped. I know Pice got slapped. I got slapped. Juju got slapped. Loyal got slapped. Will you testify? At first, there was still cult residuals present because I was so disgusted at myself for being a part of the cult. I wasn't even sure if I was even going to get online again, let alone testify. But looking back at, just looking at surviving R. Kelly and other people having to have that courage to speak out against their abuser, I will testify if necessary. They might not need me to. Because when it comes to an indictment, from my understanding, I could be wrong. I'm not a criminal justice major. I'm not a lawyer. I don't have no problem making it known that I may not know what I'm talking about. From what I understand about an indictment, when people are indicted, it is often accompanied by the prosecution having the evidence that they feel like is enough to lead to a conviction. And when you look at Tabitha Pasmino's resume, she's already convicted 2 other sexual offenders to life in prison. I think she's a senior assistant to the DA. So she's not she's not a public defender. She's a real deal lawyer that has already been in these cases before. She's not just testing the waters. She's already convicted 2 people of similar offenses to life. This is not a game. And just because you file a motion for bond does not mean it has to be granted. And even if you do get the bond, the judge can set it so high that it's almost impossible for you to even raise the money. The state of Georgia would look very bad releasing someone to the general public who has so much recorded evidence against their own self. It would just look bad. I think it would be a failure on the justice system's behalf to release somebody who has been denied on 3 previous attempts and the circumstances have not changed at all. And the funny part about it, exactly, Phenom Woman, the cult members that are there are so dumbfounded that they don't understand that this is bigger. They didn't just start paying attention to his behavior. Janae going forward to the authorities was the opening of the door that they needed. He's definitely a flight risk. He's definitely a flight risk. He's definitely liable to contact the witness. It's recorded on a phone call when he instructed Courtney to contact Janae. And the state only has to prove and only has to demonstrate one. They don't even have to meet all 4 criteria. The state only has to demonstrate one. And if one of those demonstrations are met, the judge can deny the bond. And I don't expect nothing different from the cult leader because I watched R. Kelly deny. I watched R. Kelly sit up there and deny everything like he had no idea what happened. Even to the extent that he was even willing to blame his own brother. And I tried.
That documentary was good, wasn't it?
Man, I said I fell asleep. I fell asleep on episode 6. Fell asleep. And I had to go back to cause you know how it'll keep going. I had to go back to halfway between episode 5, and I finished it all the way through episode 6.
Mm-hmm.
I woke up just so me and you could be caught up on the same page. I'm
Right.
like, just the same way I felt about the FLDS, and I
Yeah.
was like, how did I overlook this? How did I miss that this was going on? How did I miss that R. Kelly was doing all this stuff?
Well, yeah, it's crazy, right? Because even the co-leader was saying like, he was planting a seed of a narrative of R. Kelly in our head and why these women were coming out and saying what they were saying. And just like the other people believed, oh, it was for money. Oh, they was trying to get clout. Nah, bro. When I heard them intricate stories, I said, nah, they ain't lying.
Nah, I'm like,
because I experienced some of the same things. They ain't lying. And I seen the spirit. I seen the spirit of him in R. Kelly for sure. For sure.
That's crazy. And I'm looking at some of the pictures of R. Kelly. I'm like, bro, y'all look just alike. Yeah. And I'm not talking about physical features. Right. I'm just saying in y'all eyes, it's like y'all got the same spirit. I'm like, dang, I understand finally why people was making the comparison between him and R. Kelly.
Yeah. It's like we didn't want to see that. I didn't even want to see R. Kelly as a bad figure in my mind. Because actually that was the music. He used to play R. Kelly all the time. All the time. That was the song. He played that R. Kelly song when he broke my virginity. Like, it's just deep. And it's like, I'm so disgusted. And I got so angry watching that documentary. I was like, oh no, I'm not going to stop speaking about this because people like this just can't get away with, oh, I'm the victim and these people are trying to, throw salt on my name. Nah, bro. That's not what it is at all. At all.
That is not the motive.
And I can't see the comments, so if there's any question, just let me know.
Oh, what happened?
What the heck is in my bread? Sorry. I can't see the comments, like they're not rolling.
Oh, damn. Okay, yeah. If any questions pop up, I'll let you know.
All right.
Somebody said, can you talk about when he got everyone to shame you for missing job when you moved to ATL?
So, yeah. Well, Did everybody shame me?
I'm trying.
It was like an unspoken thing.
I
Like you
think
wasn't supposed to feel, huh?
I think she's talking about an actual incident.
I think she's talking
Wait,
about that time when I was live and I cried on the live about loving and missing Ja.
I think
But
so.
y'all was in Philly. Y'all was in
Right.
Philly. We
Yeah.
was in Atlanta. Crazy because I didn't think I had done anything wrong with expressing my feelings. Um, he would always say, keep it real, keep it 100, be transparent, be vulnerable. So I thought, I'm being recorded on this camera. I want to be honest with the way I feel as much as I can be based off what I, can feel. And so I thought I was being pretty honest at that time. But then I also would quickly be like, but I need to be here to serve him and I need to make sure that he's the forefront of my mind. But what I did notice, and I always knew this, was that he was right there in the room with Tanisha and Portia when they were instructed to ask me those questions that they were asking me. 100%. Tanisha would never ask me those questions. Hold on.
Uh,
Okay, yeah, 100%. They were instructed exactly what to ask me behind, like he was sitting behind the camera and they were in front of the camera, and so even at that time, I knew that those questions weren't coming from them. But I, so I can't even really, he would just use us like that. Like they weren't necessarily genuinely asking me questions, or trying to shame me, but he was doing all that, to basically just create this narrative that I was doing what I wanted to do, um, to the public, like, oh, I wanted to be there with him and not with my child, when in fact it was just like I was under so much mental control that I viewed nothing more important than being in his presence, because I thought was my attachment to my child could mean, that I'm not going to make it to heaven, because in his teachings you can't have any attachments to anything but him, because he describes himself as this, not really a human but like a god, so if you have an attachment to him, that's fine, but you can't have an attachment to any other human or any possession. And you have to view your children as these like attachments, that you don't have possession over, and you have to be able to let them go at any time. So a lot of times I already kind of played with the idea in my head that I wasn't going to be able to be a mother to my child. I just, even though it was hard, I was literally crying. I was trying so hard to be strong, but um it took everything in me, and I think that a lot of time, that when Ja was with his father, I was distracted so much by what was going on with him and the other women around me, that it was like Ja was out of sight and he was out of mind, because what was going on right in front of me was like, it was constant chaos. For example, we would just be having a regular night, about to go to sleep, and next thing you know, Tanisha said something or did something that he feels is disrespectful. So now we're in a meeting for hours about whether or not she's a disrespectful, person, and she's a bitch, disrespectful woman that is, weaponized, being used as a weapon against him by white supremacy. We're going deep into that, and sometimes it would turn into a live video and we would have to sit there and listen to him. So I wasn't really able to like fully process, or anybody wasn't really able to fully process the fact that my child was there but wasn't there, because we were so absorbed with him, you know, and every day it was like, you guys come and take care of me. And he basically what he did was he painted this image that Ja was actually Aaron, and that's why we weren't
Oh my
allowed to call
goodness.
Ja
Oh
Ja.
my
We
goodness.
had to call Ja True, and
That's just crazy to me. That is really, really crazy to me. What they have gone through,
called Ja True.
man.
And so everybody was kind of struggling with that because everybody knew Ja's Ja, but we were told we had to call Ja True because Ja means God, and we can't call anybody else God but him. And Ja is actually his father's spirit, so we need to start looking at him like his father and not look at him like a child or a baby. So I
And please
had a
talk
hard
about
time with that.
please talk about how that shifted the women's
Yeah,
behavior towards y'all.
yeah.
How talk about how it was, and then talk about how it shifted.
So initially, I actually still have the pictures of, all the women, holding Ja at some point. Ra, she was really close with Josh, um, Kayla, really close with Ja. She used to feed him like, fruit and stuff when he was a baby. Like, I have pictures of her holding him. There's Tanisha even told me that she felt like Ja reminded her so much of her son. So she had an attachment to him. Actually, the reason why we all started calling him Jaja was because of Tanisha. Tanisha started calling him Jaja. So we all picked up that nickname and called him Jaja. So every single woman had a relationship with Ja, and it was real. You could tell it was real because, he's a child, he's pure, and he didn't mind, being held by any of them. He even, when he got to the point where he could walk and stuff, he would gravitate towards them and want to show them his toys and, just talk to them, interact with him like children do. And they were, at that point, they would respond back to him with love. And then there was a point, there was multiple points, because at one point, Velvet was even, there's a picture of Velvet I just seen, it was on the news, of her holding Ja, but they have the baby's face blurred out and people think it's Princess, or not Princess, sorry, but you know, her child, the little girl, him and her child, they think it's her child that she's holding in the picture, but it's actually Ja. So like, everybody had a real good relationship with John, but over time I think he noticed that people loved Ja. Like, even he posted Ja on his page because Ja is just a beautiful human. Like, he's a beautiful baby. He's gorgeous and he's so pure, and he has these beautiful eyes, and it was just hard for people not to love him. Like, everybody loved Ja. And then when he started preaching, I think it was about like when we were when we was traveling towards Mexico again, and he started preaching that this whole bloodline thing about how his children were royalty and everybody else's children were kind of like the servant of royalty. And he was saying that he wanted to keep reproducing himself with his multiple wives, and then his wives would then go on to mate their children together with the other wives' children, like basically their sister wives. And he would say like basically half brother and half sister would mate with each other, and so that he can keep going with his bloodline. He's an idiot because he doesn't know that causes genetic defects, and he tried to explain that away because they don't have the same mother, but that doesn't matter. Eventually the people will have defects, but we didn't consider that at that time. And he definitely wasn't talking about that. He was only talking about how he wanted to basically just create more of himself. So he basically was saying that he would never mate his children with our children, for example, or like Solar's child or Moose's child. Nobody else's child would be allowed to mate with his child because his child was going to be royalty, which was fine. I didn't have an issue with that because he would say things like, your child would be more fit to mate with Solar's child or Moose's child. And I agreed with that, at that time, because I'm like, yeah, that makes sense, because if they like each, like, it makes sense. But especially because we had already came into our mind that we were like going to be a community of people or a nation of people, so it was like there wasn't going to be any outsiders. So I just agreed to that, and then didn't really dig deep in the whole line breeding thing. But over time he started preaching this whole, the children belong to the father. And I think that there was some women that wanted to come and join that also had children, and he wanted to encourage them to leave their children. He did this on live with Seven and stuff like that. He wanted the women that were wanting to be with him but had children to basically be convinced that their children belonged with their father and not with the mother, and so that he can then take them and mate with them and have more children. So he would say things like, you don't want to have a child by, you don't want to keep having children by those men. You want to have my baby. You should come here, be with me, leave those children and come have my baby.
Oh, yes, he did. He did that on live with that girl, Seven. She had two daughters, and he would just, every single time he was on live with her, he would kind of try to make her feel bad for being a mother, a dedicated mother to her children. Now, for anybody who doesn't remember who Seven is, this is a short clip of her and her oldest daughter. Beautiful children, beautiful family. Seven actually gave birth to another child recently. She has a new baby boy as well.
He told me to say on live that I gave Aaron one child, and now that I will give him one child. A lot of people were confused, thinking I was pregnant at the time. When I said that, I wasn't. He was making me speak that into existence. Like, I'm not gonna keep bearing children with Aaron. I'm gonna now have children with him. He wanted me to say that from my mouth so that people thought I wanted to do what I was doing. And so yeah, the women started treating Ja differently from that point, because they were ordered to, directly and indirectly. That he would say things like, that's true, y'all know that's true, right? That's not a baby, that's true. And so they would start to question how they felt about Ja. And then it started to get a little disrespectful, I felt. We were in Philadelphia, and Kayla, Ja was coming into the kitchen to ask me something, and Kayla told him to get out the kitchen, and she did this little like finger thing on his forehead, like if you were to push somebody's forehead with your finger, like back up. And I told her, I said, don't ever do that to my child. I said, I was so serious with her. She sat down. I remember her sit down. She felt my energy. I was like, don't ever do that to my child. I was like, I don't know what you got going on in yourself, but that's a child right there. I said, now how would you feel if I came up to you and plucked your forehead and told you to back up? That would be a fight, right? But because he's powerless, because he's a child, you think that that's right. And I told her that's not right. And Zoka was right there. Jayon was right there. She could tell you I told her that. And Jayon said, yeah, I agree with Sheba on this one. She agreed with me on that. And I was like, yeah, because you're not going to sit here and talk to him like that. I said, now, and I know you're twisted. I know you got it twisted, because just 2 days ago you was with Caliber and you didn't treat Ja like that. But since now you switched up and you with the other dude, the cult leader now you treating Ja like that. I peeped it. And I told her, I said, and that's not right. I said, treat him the same way you always treated him, because that's not okay for you to just switch up now because you with the cult leader, when 2 days ago when you was with Caliber, he was, oh, Ja, I love Ja, and smiling and hugging on him. I said, that's not right, and that's when I started to see the little evil spirit in her. And I told her about herself, and I told her, I said, I don't really like you like that. I said, I don't. After that, like, I really see you, and I don't like you like that, because you did that to my child, and you did that to a child. You know what I'm saying? Because you're an adult, you can do and treat a child like how you want to treat a child. No, like, I started realizing that these people have real issues in themselves, just like I did, and we weren't healing generational curses, we were creating them, or repeating them. And then I started to notice when we got back to Atlanta and Ja was with me, the women, they would be getting dressed in the room with the co-leader, in the co-leader's room, And you know, Ja's wandering around the house. He's walking around and he doesn't feel like he's not welcome in any room. So he walks into the room and see, I guess they're getting dressed. And I mean, the door is open. You know, that's why Ja walked in. And they start covering up and say, "Oh my gosh, this job," you know. And I was like, "Why are y'all responding like that?" And come to find out, it was because he was telling them that that's actually true. And when Ja came around, they should treat him like that's true, so, walking in the room, and they shouldn't, you know. So they didn't want to let them. You know, let the baby see them naked because, oh my gosh. And that's fine. Of course, you know, you shouldn't be naked around the baby or whatever, but they were treating it like it wasn't a baby. And I felt like, you're absolutely ridiculous. Like, and so we had a meeting about it where, you know, it was the weirdest meeting because the cult leader was in the bath with Tanisha while we were in this meeting. And I was sitting I was sitting outside of the bath with the other women, and he's like, "You felt some type of way about that, huh?" And I said, "Yes, because we preach that children are pure and that we shouldn't be tainting their minds, you know, but here we are, you know, treating this little baby, here you guys are treating this little baby as if he's a grown person when we're supposed to be keeping the innocence of children. This is not right." And he was like, "Well, I think that you feel like that because you feel like he is not all true spirit. You feel like he is your spirit too." And I said, "Yes, I do." So in that moment, he realized that I didn't really believe in his teachings as far as the child just is the father's. I believe that Ja was a part of me as well. So I think he was trying to kind of break my relationship with Ja with his teachings, as well as the other women's relationship with their children with his teachings. But it just wasn't working with me because I was the only woman there that had their child physically there. So it hit a little different for me. You know, it was a little bit more personal for me because I was there with my child, while, you know, Tanisha, her child is back with somebody else. She doesn't see her child, talk to her child, so she's not thinking about him. Portia, her child is gone with somebody else. She's not thinking about or talking to her child. Kayla, she had an abortion and a miscarriage, so she's not thinking about those children. They were never in her arms. Twice. Um, what is her name? Jayon, aka Zoka. She had a stillbirth baby, so she was never able to form a genuine connection with her child alive. So they don't have the same relation to their children that I had to my child.
Kendra, aka Sheba, is spitting facts. All of that is facts. Tanisha Dulay, aka Queen Malia, she left her son. I believe he was like almost a year or a year old in a few months. Aya, aka Portia Wade, she left her son as well. She actually I believe she gave custody to his father. And Zoka, aka Jayon Marie Hamilton, did indeed have a stillbirth baby with Solar. And Kayla Buckner, aka Efaru, she did have a miscarriage and one abortion. The abortion apparently was somewhat of Eligio Bishop, aka Nature Boy, aka Three Gods' request.
So it was very hard for them to relate. They were young women. I do not blame them. They're very young, naive. They don't realize that this person has taken so much control over their lives that their very belief system is just his. It's not their own. So it's like, I can't blame them for, you know, shaming me for being a mother the way that I was, and them telling me, "You're too nice, you're too mothering, you're too nurturing, you give him everything he wants, you don't say no to him, you know, you're gonna make him weak, you're gonna make him fragile, you're not teaching him to be strong, you're teaching him to rely on you." And you know, they just couldn't fathom why I was just giving Josh so much attention and care and love, because they were taught not to give their own children that much love and attention and care. And they were taught to disregard their feelings about all of their children, every last one of them, the dead, and the ones alive. They were told that they were not supposed to have feelings about that, or that any feelings that they had about that were supposed to be, carefully debunked with the knowledge, so that they didn't have to feel those feelings for real. But we all know, well, we all don't, maybe not. We may all not know, but I know personally that Kayla hurts because she wanted children very badly. And now who knows if she's going to be able to have children again. When you have an abortion, and when you have a miscarriage, it's kind of scary. There's trauma there. So she wanted children. She talked all the time about having a little girl, and that never happened for her. And twice it was supposed to. The first time in Panama when she was with Caliber and she got pregnant, and he told her, "You're not supposed to be with him, you're supposed to be with me." And so she decided in her mind she was going to be with the cult leader if she had a miscarriage. It's crazy because shortly after she was outside, and I guess she felt pain. She got on the toilet. I saw it. She had a miscarriage. And she said, "I guess this is a sign that I should be with the co-leader." And me being as silly as I was at the time, told her she was right. And she's lucky that that happened. It's just being so brainwashed. I told her that. And, and funny, she ended up going back to Caliber shortly after, getting pregnant again. And then he took them all to California, and she came back and told me a very deep, dark secret. She said, "I took a pill and I aborted the baby." Um, I didn't know. I wasn't there. Didn't see her take it. But that's what she told me. And Kayla always trusted me. Jayon wanted to be she was so reluctant to be excited about her own pregnancy. None of us were excited for her except Janae. Nobody wanted her to be pregnant because we knew that how that would affect everything. The co-leader didn't even want her and Solar to be together from the beginning. So we knew that was going to be negative because we had already demonized their relationship in our mind. So when she got pregnant, nobody celebrated, nobody clapped. She was alone. That whole pregnancy, just like in my whole pregnancy, she was alone. And she was shamed. And she didn't want the baby. I believe she didn't want it. The baby grew and grew and grew. By the time she was about 5 or 6 months, and he was convincing her to drink, tequila shots. She was very reluctant to take those shots, and he told her, "You're not supposed to have no fear. You're not supposed to have no fear," and made her take the shots. And shortly after that, he took all the women back. Like I was talking about earlier, there was 7 of us in one house in Mexico, and he made sure to have sex with her. 6 months pregnant. And I guess she had found a way. I think she was 6 months pregnant. She was definitely showing a lot. She had never been to a hospital though to get a checkup or anything. So we really don't know the health of the baby while this was all happening. After those tequila shots, nothing. She was never at a doctor appointment ever. None of us were. While pregnant. I remember her coming to me and telling me she found a video of there's a way to abort a baby when the baby is, even big, like even the amount of months that she was at, there was a way to abort the baby. So she came and showed me a video of how they do it. And it was a very graphic video. And she said, "This is what I want to do. I want to abort this baby." The baby was kicking, everything. She wanted to abort the baby. And she somehow got a ticket. She got in the car to go abort the baby one morning. And she was going to go fly back to California, basically. That's where she got a ticket to. She was going to go fly back to California and get the baby aborted. Nobody knew about this. I don't think it was said online or out loud. I don't know, because I didn't watch every video or anything. I just know that this is what she told me. This is what I remember. And I just remember she came back, like that same day. She's like, "I couldn't do it." She's like, "I just got this feeling that it was like I was doing something wrong and I couldn't do it." And so she never got on the flight. She never went to California. She never got an abortion. She just stayed, and she got back with Solar, and she seemed to be doing better, but her skin was still really bad eczema. Just her body wasn't looking good. Her face wasn't looking good. Bags in her eyes. She wasn't the same girl. And I didn't realize this, but I watched a video yesterday where she even said that she got pregnant 3 months into her being there. I believe that Jayon would have left if she didn't get pregnant. She got pregnant 3 months into being there. What was she supposed to do? Get on a flight and go back to her family pregnant? She was embarrassed, you know? This was a girl that only had one other sexual encounter in her life. We were a lot of like, we didn't give ourselves away like that. So getting pregnant 3 months into being there, she was shocked into staying, she was trapped and went through with the whole pregnancy after, even being forced into, I don't even know if this was before or after, but she did have a threesome with her and Solar and the cult leader. And she was forced to do that because the cult leader basically said to her in some type of way or form that, "Oh, you want to be with two men, right? Well, here's your chance." And she told me she didn't like it at all. Later on, and the reason why her tooth was not present towards, that stay, the end of that stay in Puerto Rico. Hold on, my baby.
Man, some of this stuff I'm just not hearing. I don't know if I'm doing a good job on my face because I learned how to do it in the military. I don't know if I'm doing a good job holding myself together as far as my facial expressions is concerned, but on the inside, it's it's something else. And I understand what people say when they say when they refer to an emotional situation and they say this is a lot. This is a lot. And just when you think you've gotten yourself back together, it's something else. I was there and I'm just now finding out about this. That's why I encourage everybody that was involved to please find it in yourself to tell your story, because you have pieces that other people don't have that could be very vital to their healing process. I know you might be afraid of what people gonna think, but that's okay.
Aaron, aka True, is hitting the nail right on the head. All of these women, Zoka, aka Jayon Marie Hamilton, Aya, aka Portia Wade, Efaru, aka Kayla Buckner, and Queen Malia, aka Tanisha Dulay, they still have time to rebuild themselves and rebuild their lives. But they have to make that choice for themselves, and they have to wake up on their own. All we can do is just send positive energy and prayers towards them.
Because there's certain stuff the women seen that the guys didn't see. There's certain things that the guys seen that the women didn't see. There's certain things that each person seen that other people didn't see. So to get a real complete picture of what we was doing and who we was dealing with, we need all of them pieces. I'm not rushing you. I'm not forcing you to do nothing, but when you feel ready, anybody who was there, please continue to speak out so that not only we can heal, but other people who have connected themselves to our story can heal as well. And so that we can also inspire other people in similar situations to heal in the same way. Because I'm listening to this story and I'm like,
It's crazy, right? Yeah, I really, the reason why I'm saying this stuff too is because I know that she probably doesn't remember this stuff because I barely, like things like some certain things are coming back to me. Like thinking about her story, I'm going back into every encounter that I had with her, and I'm just like, I was so absorbed in things I had going on that I didn't take the time to think this young girl that came here at 19 is dealing with stuff that she should never have to deal with, you know. And he broke her down, you know, and I think we all did. By the end, I was slapping Zoka in Atlanta. You know, I had her on her knees, you know,
you was about to talk about
her
her
tooth.
too, babe. Yeah.
Yep. So after there was an incident, you know, where I don't know if it was the same night that she had the threesome with them, but it was around that time where her and Solar got into a kind of altercation. I don't know if it was physical or not, but it wouldn't put it past me. I wouldn't put it past me because I don't even know if that's how you say that. I wouldn't doubt
Past
it
him.
because
Put it
oh,
past him.
oh
Yeah.
okay, I wouldn't put it past him. I'm like, how do you say that?
No, it's all
Um
good.
I wouldn't doubt it because that was a normal thing in their relationship. Um for somehow, some way, he got a hold of her tooth. So the tooth thing, she came and joined us with a false tooth. She got into some type of fight or something. I don't remember what the story was, but something happened in her childhood where she got her tooth knocked out. So that tooth that's there and it's missing. Oh, I'm not saying that right. The tooth that's missing now was always missing from childhood. She came there with a fake tooth. I didn't even know this until one day she doesn't have her tooth in. And I'm like, what's going on? And she's like, no, I don't know if it was that day. I think it was one day she pulled out her tooth for me. Like she knew how to like pull it out and like put it back in. I was like, wait, what? And she was like, yeah, it's a big insecurity of mine. And I'm just like, okay. So I guess that during this time that she had a threesome with them and she was having an altercation with Solar took the tooth and threw it far in Puerto Rico, like threw it off the balcony. So she was forced to then reveal to the world that she didn't have a tooth there anymore because she no longer had her false tooth. And the co-leader kept saying he would take her to the dentist to get another tooth, but he never did. So she was just kind of forced to live with out loud with her insecurity, and she kind of acts like it doesn't bother her, but it's her biggest insecurity. Like she's truly bothered by the fact that she's walking around without that tooth. You know, that was, you know, that meant a lot to her, and I think that's why he threw it off the balcony. And so like I said, she's beat up so bad mentally and physically that I don't think she knows where to turn at this point. I don't think she views herself as beautiful anymore, or as, the star that she is anymore. She feels like she failed herself, because when she got there, and she feels like he's a prophet, because when she got there, he told her don't be with Solar, and she went against him and was with Solar anyways. And she feel like if she would have listened to him in the beginning, she would be a goddess by now. But because she didn't listen to the cult leader and she went with Solar, she feel like she's the one that messed up and not the cult leader. So she blames herself for everything that happened, and it's not her fault. Even losing that child wasn't her fault. And I bet it's horrifying to be in that position where people think that you deliberately harmed your child, especially after having the thought of having an abortion. It's like she probably does blame herself, because she's like, I didn't want the baby to be here, but I didn't want the baby to die like that. But she thought she was going to meet her baby that day. She thought she was going to have some type of normal relationship with her child that day. But it didn't happen. I remember we picked her up from the hospital, me and Aaron, her and Courtney.
And Dalen was there too.
Oh, he was.
Remember Dalen with Dalen
was.
because me and Dalen
Oh
was,
yeah, you couldn't. You was battle buddies.
Yeah, so he had to go with me because I guess they dropped. Didn't the cult leader drop Jayon and Courtney off at the hospital?
Yeah, at the hospital.
We had to go get them.
Yeah,
we had to go get them.
Mm-hmm. We had to go get them. They were dropped off, and then I think we came and got them the next day.
Mm-hmm.
And when I think it was really real, because the co-leader had told us that the baby had died in the hospital, but it became really real when she walked out without the baby. She walked out the hospital without the baby, and they got in the car.
Yeah, because I didn't understand. Like, I'm thinking, like, what if?
Yeah.
Did he tell us the baby died before we went there? Because I can't even remember.
I think they called him, and I believe he did tell us, because I wasn't totally shocked. I think he did tell us that the baby died, and he was kind of like a "I told you so" type of thing. Like,
I can't even really remember.
Yeah, it was kind of blurry that day. I just remember I'm picturing her and Solar walking out the hospital, because I remember that moment, and she had like the black hoodie on, and she was like all cuddled up, like, huddled over, like,
Right.
like obviously sad. And she got in the car and didn't even speak to me. Like, she was just like totally just curled up in the car, and she was texting. I remember she was like texting Solar back and forth. Like, she had so many deep feelings. Jayon's a very deep person. And she had so many deep feelings, and she was just writing about him and sending him messages back and forth. And they were like, he had his arm around her. They were close in that moment. They were all each other had. I mean, they were the only ones that experienced that. We were not there.
Right.
They experienced that together. Just like me and Aaron experienced the birth of our child together. No one else was there. So it's different, for them than it is for us. But I just remember, she didn't talk. She didn't open up about it. I didn't expect her to. And shortly after, she was forced to get on that live. I think it was like a month before. It was like about 3-4 weeks after she was forced to get on that live.
I say it wasn't that long, because the only reason she was forced to get on that live was because the cult leader was trying to discredit the statements of people saying he killed the baby. So he doesn't care about Jayon and her feelings at all.
No, and that's what I got from that video.
Huh?
I said, and that's what I got from that video. When I watched it yesterday, I realized he did not care about her. It was all about, tell him what happened.
Right. I gotta go back and watch some of these like pivotal moments in people's journey, because as I'm going with you in my mind as you're talking about it, I'm realizing how far removed I am from these people's experiences, because I've associated emotions with these things that only low vibrational, weak people dive into, and that my emotions just can be disregarded because of how I'm thinking. But I'm realizing that the amount of unprocessed trauma that
Yeah.
people are carrying
Yeah, and that's why I
is
told you, babe, they're not healed. There's no
ridiculous.
way. There's no way. There's no way
Man,
they're not thinking about. There's no way they don't. I mean, I would say they're not thinking about, because they might not be thinking about it, but their body still feels it.
it don't go nowhere.
Yeah, it's not. It hasn't gone anywhere. And I was gonna be like, oh, I'll just wait till they tell their story, but I see people that are thinking like, oh, something bad like happened, like, you know, some type of sacrifice and stuff, but it was really just like.
All right, y'all. I hope you enjoyed this video as well as my commentary. Be sure to drop me a comment, smash that like button, and share this video. Guys, I want to give a warm welcome to all of my new subscribers. Hey, y'all. Welcome to the channel. And to all of my day ones, my OGs, my ride or dies, you know who you are. Big up yourself. We in the building with it.